Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Foxborough Board of Selectmen's meeting for November 12, 2013 at the Foxborough High School Media Center. Tonight's agenda is 7 p.m. citizens input, 7:05 chairman update, and James DeVellis is going to take that tonight. 7:10 public hearing, alleged liquor license violation, Gillette Stadium, One Patriots Place manager James J. Nolan Jr. 7:40 p.m. public hearing, alleged liquor license violation, Skipjacks, 226 Patriots Place, manager Peter Dowd. 8:10 public hearing, alleged liquor license violation, Taster's Wine Bar and Bistro, 201 Patriots Place, manager William Martin. 8:40 p.m. public hearing, alleged liquor license violation, Foxborough Country Club, 33 Walnut Street, manager Stephen Champagne. 9:15 joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, Advisory Committee, review FY15 revenue forecast. 9:30 public hearing, application of 2013 MIAA High School Super Bowls. 9:45 Board of Selectmen Charter for Town Manager Screening Committee. 9:55 Board of Selectmen outside meeting, followed by action. Tonight on citizens input, I'll entertain it for as long as I can. We have a public hearing at 7:10 p.m. If it goes over, I'll have it again after the public hearings. If it becomes too late, I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, I'm trying to suffice everybody here. I don't want anybody speaking in an insulting manner to anybody, audience, board, or anything. I'd appreciate that. Okay, so seeing that, is there anybody here from Citizens Input? Oh, I'm sorry. God bless me. Thank you, Linda. Okay, John.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know Mrs. Garber had come up to me prior to the meeting, would like to speak at Citizens Input, so I'm going to have her come up first.
Thank you. Ellen Garber, 3 Tara Ann Drive. I'm here to read a statement related to the Splitsville Luxury Lanes liquor license transfer, and I have a statement which I can share with you all. I am not here alone. Could I have a show of hands from the growing number of concerned residents? I'm doing a quick count, but for the folks at home, there's over 25, probably 35 people in this room, and it's a growing number. Many of you folks have in your hands a petition. We have circulated a petition just in about the last 24 hours and have probably over 200 signatures in a very short period of time. And it's by residents who are signing it, as well as local business owners who are residents. So I have a statement again. Bob, I'll leave these with you if you want to hand them out to the group, but I'd like to read it.
Did you, by any chance, make one for the press?
They have them.
Okay,
Yes.
great, thank you.
So I will read this statement now in 90 seconds or less. Okay. We respectfully request that the Board of Selectmen reconsider its decision made at the hearing on November 5th, 2013, to deny the application of Splitsville Luxury Lanes for the transfer of a liquor license from the Dana-Farber Fieldhouse and approve the application in a timely manner. We base this request on the following information. Splitsville has proposed a $4.5 million investment in a new entertainment establishment, which is estimated to provide between $75,000 and $100,000 in annual local tax revenue and create 125 local jobs. Splitsville is a well-respected business with operations throughout the United States, including one located in the family-oriented downtown Disney located in Orlando, Florida. Police Chief O'Leary visited Splitsville locations and mitigated a public safety plan and funding, which Splitsville and Patriot Place have agreed to. Public input during the 2 separate meetings of the application hearing showed 100% in favor of the application. In summary, we feel that granting this liquor license transfer will provide many positive economic as well as community benefits to the town of Foxborough, and feel that the applicant has more than adequately addressed any concerns that have been presented. We ask that the Board of Selectmen call a special meeting for the public to attend, to reconsider this application and overturn the previous decision. To support this request, we have begun a petition drive requesting registered voters support this action, and we will continue these efforts to gather more signatures in the coming days. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else with citizens' input? Larry, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Larry Thomas, live at 6 Norton Street. This will be point counterpoint, I guess. I actually am very pleased that the Board of Selectmen voted the way that they did. But I think there's a lot of confusion in the community, that there's a lot of people who think that what happened was you voted against kind of a boutique bowling alley, when what really happened was you voted against a very large-scale bar, only slightly smaller in scale than a Toby Keith's. And when I talk to people and I explain that, people typically say, now I understand. And for me, what was one of the most interesting things that I heard was when Lorraine talked about the 24J report. And for those who don't understand what that is a Massachusetts law that says that in any OUI court case, if someone pleads guilty or is found guilty, the judge has to ask them where was the last place that they got a drink. And 38 people last year said that the last place that they drank alcohol before they were arrested for drunken driving was the town of Foxborough. Now, 38 people might not sound like a large number until you realize that the number of people who drink and drive and get caught is very, very small. Mothers Against Drunk Driving estimate that people typically drive 87 times before they get caught for drunk driving. So it takes a lot of people to catch one person drunk driving. Once you get caught, in Massachusetts, you're actually quite fortunate that that's where you got arrested. Those of you who read the Globe Spotlight article just recently know that in Massachusetts, almost no one gets convicted for drunk driving. So you have a situation where it's very difficult to catch the people. Once they're caught, almost no one gets convicted. And then finally, we end up with 38 people saying that Foxborough was the last place that they drank alcohol. So what should be a very, very rare event actually seems to be happening very, very often here in Foxborough. If you try to work your way back, there's probably a lot of statistical ways to work your way back to try to estimate, to get to that 38, how many people had to start out drinking, drunk driving on our roads. And I would say that number has to be very, very large. So that's one of the things that I'm concerned about. One of the other things, I hear people say that somehow that we're anti-business here in Foxborough because we turned this down. And I can't imagine, if you look at our recent history, that there could possibly be a more accommodating town in the state of Massachusetts. We took a stadium that Boston turned down, Hartford turned down, Providence turned down, and we took it here in Foxborough. At a time where we had 16 liquor licenses issued, we petitioned the legislature to give us another 12 licenses. We've beefed up our public safety capabilities tremendously here in Foxborough so that we can handle the things that happen up there. Granted, we got mitigation money, but that money is about to run out. The costs aren't going to go away, so we're left having to pay for all that. But we've been very, very accommodating to the business, to Patriot Place and to the craft group here in Foxborough. Another thing that concerns me is just the pure opportunity costs here. 2 years ago, the planning board ran a wonderful exercise in coming up with the town's master plan. And one of the things that they did was they talked to hundreds and hundreds of people about what was their highest priority here in the town of Foxborough. The highest priority of the people here in the town of Foxborough is the development of the downtown business district. I come to virtually every selectmen's meeting in my role on a different committee. I never hear people here talk about what is acknowledged to be the most important issue on people's minds here in Foxborough. What are we talking about? If you go back and you go through, I went back and I looked at the agendas for the Board of Selectmen over the last year. Over 30% of the meetings have a substantial agenda item on alcohol. Just look at the last two meetings where virtually the entire meeting was spent on an alcohol-related issue. And later on tonight, most of this meeting is going to be spent on alcohol-related issues. Imagine if we could just spend all that time working on a new town hall, working on downtown. I think these are important issues that we lose, and we just tend to get really enamored of the development up on Route 1, and we just don't think all the way through all the ramifications. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Okay, John, could you read the first public notice, please? We'll go back to the chairman's update and the citizens input later.
This is a legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12th, 2013, at 7:10 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Media Center, 120 South Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, pursuant to its licensing authority in accordance with Massachusetts general laws, annotated Chapter 138, Section 23, 64, and 67, and all amendments thereto. The purpose of the hearing will be review and discuss information concerning alleged violation of Chapter 138 that occurred at Gillette Stadium, 1 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Massachusetts. All interested parties are invited to attend.
Thank you, John. Okay. Bob, how do we want to start these hearings? You want to hear from,
We'll let Mr. DeLuca run it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. There are 4 separate hearings on tonight, all of a similar variety. This is the first one that was scheduled. I have had the opportunity, with the help of Mr. Cutler and Chief O'Leary, to review all of the reports in these matters. I don't think that, as I understand, and as is the practice here in Foxborough, you have not yet reviewed those reports or the facts in support of those reports.
They just got them tonight, just before the meeting.
Okay. I have had an opportunity to meet with each and every one of the license holders in these cases, to review with them the facts of the matters, and to discuss with them the matter of this hearing. And in this instance, as well as the ones that are coming forward, you will find that there is no dispute on the facts with respect to the alleged violations. So in that instance, there's really no need for a contested hearing, as you might otherwise have in these cases. So in light of that, what we were prepared to do is to provide to you a summary of the facts supporting each of the alleged violations, to be provided by a representative from the Foxborough Police, that is Officer Noonan, who's here tonight. Following that summary provided by Officer Noonan, each and every one of the applicants will certainly be here, license holders, sorry, be here to answer your questions and to provide any other information that they feel is relevant. From there, we will have for you a joint recommendation by way of disposition of these cases, but of course, the board would have the discretion to act consistent with the facts as they're presented to you. So with that, I do have Officer Noonan, who could provide us a summary of the facts of this particular allegation. So let's, can we have someplace at the mic?
okay, Officer Noonan, could you please proceed?
My name is Sergeant Richard Noonan of the Foxborough Police Department. On August 16th, 2013, while working a New England Patriots preseason game, Reserve Officer Tim Head was in the south end zone, at which time a patron approached him and stated that he believed 2 females were just served alcoholic beers while sitting in one of the sections by a hawker. Officer Head responded to that section and seat, observed 2 young-looking females with Bud Light beer bottles in the cup holders in front of them, engaged them in conversation, at which time they admitted that the beers were theirs, that they did purchase the alcohol from a hawker, and they were both 18 years old. The hawker was later identified, and I subsequently talked to that hawker. He admitted that he did sell the beer to the two females. Originally, he did not know how old they were, but upon asking for their ID and observing their ID, he did identify that they were under age 21, and at which time he did knowingly sell the two females alcohol. The director of concessions was contacted. He responded. The young man was subsequently fired and was later summoned into court for selling alcohol to a minor.
Okay, thank you.
And just by way of conclusion, was there a disposition in that case, so far as you know?
All three, the two females were arrested by statute. The male party that sold the alcohol was summoned into court. All three were placed into a diversion program for first-time alcohol offenders.
That is a summary of the facts that support the allegations before the board tonight.
Anybody want to speak? Mr. Nolan, you want to speak?
Yeah,
Or your attorney?
Yes, Stephen Miller, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller. We'd just like to, I know the board is familiar with our security procedures, but I think it's important in this particular case to go over a little bit of it. This, I think, as we discussed in the last week or the week before, every 5 minutes we have a sign all around the stadium asking people to either anonymously or whatever reach out, and if they are being harassed or they see something wrong, to notify security or the police.
Excuse me, Mr. Nolan, could you put that over there? I was told last week that the public cannot see any of your signs or your other things. If you want to just face it straight out, that'd be great, because I was told that they could not see those at home. And I had asked the question and was told that they could, so just so everybody knows that. Okay, please continue.
So every 5 minutes, this notice is put around the stadium. We've had very good success with it, and it's not just an underage or over service, it's harassment if somebody is unruly or whatever, and it's really helped us in our security. In this particular instance, we don't dispute the facts. This was a rogue hawker. He said he knew the two girls. He was clearly trying to, he asked for their ID. He, as you heard the sergeant testify, he knew they were underage. He looked at their IDs, so if anybody was watching him, which we have multiple security people watching our hawkers, if anybody was watching him, they would see that he looked for the ID and was trying to follow procedure. He admitted that he's been there 3 years. He admitted he's been trained. He admitted that he signed all our procedures. It's something, as hard as we might try to be 100% accurate, which we do, if there's a rogue hawker that, in this particular case, knew these two girls, and they didn't go to him to ask him for the beer, he asked them if they wanted a beer, so he was immediately dismissed, and fortunately the police have taken action against him. I don't know, Jim Nolan, who's the manager of record, is with me, and I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of things which I wanted to provide to the board. First, when we were here a couple of weeks ago, I did provide you with a summary of all of our policies and procedures, and I did want to hand that out again, just as a matter of record with respect to this hearing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll pass them
on. The second thing, and with respect to the confidentiality of some of the information on it, i.e. the employee's date of birth, I did want to show the board, and I'll show Attorney DeLuca, which he has seen. This individual was team trained and he was certified, and his license expires on September 29th, 2014. And the last piece of paper for tonight, which I've also shown to Attorney DeLuca, Acting Town Manager Cutler, and Chief O'Leary. As we talked about and as pointed out in this document, we do have a Gillette Stadium food and beverage alcohol service policy that we require every server to sign every time they're going to serve alcohol at Gillette Stadium. And what I have for evidence this evening is that this individual, Tom O'Brien, did indeed on August 16th, 2013, sign off on all of our policies and procedures. And obviously, one of the policies is no one under the age of 21 may purchase alcohol. So he clearly violated that. Another thing written on there is failure to comply as grounds for immediate dismissal and possible legal action. So he was indeed terminated on the spot, relieved of his duties, and let go. And what I will also say is that we are pleased that he was arrested. We are pleased that he was prosecuted in Rentham District Court. And he does remain subject to possible civil actions from Gillette Stadium with respect to this matter. That's how seriously we take it. Additionally, some things that we've done recently, we've added advanced ID check machines, and that's indicated in this document. And that's at the recommendation of Chief O'Leary and Chief Investigator from the Mass ABCC, Ted Mahoney. And what those machines do is they check IDs to determine if an ID is valid. It's been blessed by both Chief O'Leary and the ABCC. We put them into place and re-instructed our hawkers that if they ever have any doubt with respect to whether an ID is valid or not, to not make the sale and to go to one of our guest services booths where they have the ID checked. The person doing the checking is not a food and beverage employee. They're not a server. They're a security person. And they're the ones who validate using this machine whether that ID is valid. If valid, the individual is issued a wristband that our servers know, so that when that individual goes back to purchase alcohol, the wristband in conjunction with the ID allows our servers to know with confidence that the ID is valid. Next, subsequent to that, we asked the ABCC to have their team do a review of our hawker program. So they actually conducted it at both of our country music festival events. And I asked them to conduct the program both from an undercover perspective, as they often do and are entitled to do, and they often do to us without warning. And I asked them also to be upfront and engage the hawkers and our other servers with why these rules and these laws are so important. And I'm happy to report that the results of their findings, both from an undercover and from a direct intervention perspective, were excellent. The Attorney Miller did talk about the text messaging and why we do it. It's not only in the building, but it's on the flyer that we hand out in the parking lots. It's on our website. It's on the fan guide that goes to our season ticket holders, because we truly want people to say something. Chief O'Leary and Sergeant Noonan, they talk about community policing. We want our fans to go and seek out stadium officials, to seek out police. And in this situation, it worked. And we're happy to see that it worked. Because we don't want underage people drinking in our building, and obviously we don't want someone serving alcohol to underage people. So we are happy to report that one of the measures that we put in place that goes above and beyond what many establishments would do worked. The most important thing we do, or I do, and David Wheeler does, and our food and beverage people do, is the safe service of alcohol at an event. A successful day for me is that not only do we attain proper service of alcohol at every transaction, every time, but people come to Gillette Stadium safely, they enjoy themselves, and they get home safely. And alcohol is the biggest piece of safety in our minds. We also talked a little bit about our designated driver program. I am pleased to announce, as of right now, through 7 games, we again lead the NFL in that program. And when I talk about Gillette Stadium history, I've been the alcohol manager since 2003. Since 2003, we have not had a liquor violation. Gillette Stadium opened in 2002. Since 2002, we've not had a liquor license violation. And in asking Chief O'Leary, who's been, servicing this town for a lot longer than I've been affiliated with the Patriot organization and Gillette Stadium, as long as Chief O'Leary can remember, we've had no violations. And to put it into context, since Gillette Stadium opened, we've had over 15 million people come to ticketed events, 15 million. In addition to those ticketed events, we've had other events in our clubs that are not ticketed events, as this board knows. And with over 15 million different people coming to our building, where there is service of alcohol, we've never had a violation. So I would put our track record up, against any other establishment in the town of Foxborough, and more so any other serving establishment in the Commonwealth. And I think as Attorney DeLuca can advise the board, it is in the board's discretion with respect to what they can do tonight. And one of the things that is in the board's discretion is to have no finding. So I humbly ask the board, given our years of service without an issue, with over 15 million people through Gillette Stadium alone, and having this be the first violation of a liquor regulation, that I humbly ask the board to find no finding this evening. So that's what I have for the board.
Okay, thank you. Attorney DeLuca, is that what you discussed?
We discussed the facts of the case as you heard it. We did thoroughly review, with the help of Chief O'Leary at the time, all of the practices and procedures that are in place at Gillette Stadium for their ticketed events. There were suggestions made and accepted, and there were certainly the chief seemed to be pleased at some of the innovations that were engaged by Gillette Stadium. There's no dispute as to the violation. There's no dispute as to the numbers, the overall numbers that, as indicated by Mr. Nolan. It's frankly a remarkable record. However, everyone understands it only takes one for there to be a tragedy. Therefore, again, there was no dispute on the facts. The recommendation that I suggested was a written reprimand, a finding, and a written reprimand, and that, consistent with your alcohol rules and regulations, would remain on file and would be very relevant, obviously, if there were a second violation. But that is, again, reviewing your practices and procedures. You're well within the parameters of a sanction for a violation. I'm referring to your rules and regulations in that section labeled sanctions for violations.
John, any questions?
Explain to me again, if we were to pursue a remedy of a no finding, that basically this didn't happen.
Well, it would obviously it happened. We've had the hearing, but
Yeah, I'm just trying to, but basically the slate would be wiped clean, and it was as if the event didn't happen.
there would be a lack of a record that would be relied upon at any subsequent hearing.
How often does, you guide us here, but how often does one accept a no finding?
Well, it's really a case-by-case basis. In some towns, it could be customary, depending upon their own rules and regulations. And I'd advise you, again, to review your own rules and regulations with respect to what you should do upon the finding of a violation. But in some towns, there would be a warning provided, a verbal warning, without anything further. In other towns, there would be a written warning, or it's similar to what's being recommended here, a written finding and a reprimand, with the understanding that changes have been implemented and the likelihood of reoccurrence, so hopefully not at all.
But as, if we did have a finding, then if there was a second finding, the ramifications of that second finding would be far more severe.
It should, and again, in accordance with your own rules and regulations, for the finding of a second violation has, certain suggested parameters for a penalty.
Okay, thanks.
Lorraine?
Yes, thank you. Working with Chief O'Leary and a number of other people, we had revised the regulations and the sanctions for violations. I just want to read these. In carrying out its responsibility, the board may consider the following guidelines. First violation, letter of reprimand and/or suspension of up to 3 days or both. Optional with liquor closing hours of 2300, which is 11 p.m. for 10 days. Second violation, suspension of license from 3 to 10 days with liquor closing hours of 2300, 11 p.m. for 30 days. And it gets more severe. I think as we've worked on developing these guidelines for review, I feel that we have to take into consideration, obviously, the very excellent track record that the stadium has. I think also we have to look at the fact that we have really tightened up our sanctions from what they were previously, so I just think it's going to be important to consider both very carefully, before we come to a final decision on this.
Ginny?
According to the regulations that Lorraine read, the first violation is letter of reprimand and/or suspension of up to 3 days or both. What Mr. DeLuca is suggesting, from what I heard, is a letter of reprimand, but no suspension.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I could go along with that.
James?
Yeah, in light of the fact that we do spend a tremendous amount of time at this table dealing with alcohol-related issues, and the fact that we've got 3 more right after this in a row, and in light of the fact that we've spent a tremendous amount of time redoing our regulations because of this reason, consideration of no finding, I would not support. Potentially a letter of reprimand to put it on the record, and I also commend the long record that you've had of good policing, self-policing. But if it happened once, it will happen again. There's no doubt. What are you going to do differently? I'd like to hear if it's 2 hawkers per person, so this doesn't happen, or you think this is such an isolated issue, it's not going to happen again. But to put a no finding, and then we find out, 6 months from now or a year from now and revisit it, and then tell everyone else that comes, we treat everyone equally per the regulations except this one issue because they had a big event there. I want to keep everyone on the same level playing field on this, stay within our regulations, and I think take the advice of our council.
Okay, thank you. Before I speak, I'm going to open up to the public. Does anybody want to be heard in this matter? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Any more discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Attorney DeLuca, with 2 minors involved, why wasn't it 2 offenses? Can you explain that to me, or?
Well, it was a single sale, from what I understand.
Okay.
At least that were the facts. Again, the focus of all of these hearings is really on what the applicant did or didn't do, what the license holder did or didn't do. And in this instance, I think there are facts to support the understanding that they did everything that they could to head off any negligent act here on their part was held to a minimum. It was the equivalent of someone who was determined to break the law, that did break the law. Everything that the applicant did was reasonable up to that point. Insofar as even having supervisors watch the hawker knowing that, actually asked for a license that he knew was going to be underage. So from a distance, they did everything it would reasonably to protect themselves and the public from the underage sale.
And also, Mike, in our regulations, it says that if it is found that multiple violations occurred within a single business day, opening time until 2 hours after closing, such will be counted as a single violation when determining the number of violations.
Okay, thank you.
So, but also, I'd like to say the fact that you fired this kid, and he did a really stupid thing, you know. That to me means, that's why I just as soon have the letter of reprimand and not a suspension. Because you did fire the kid, and the kid did a stupid thing. The girls did a stupid thing, the guy did a stupid thing, you fired them, you've done other things. So that's the only reason I would say a letter of reprimand, but no suspension, you know, of business. I'd like to make that clear, because we're gonna have other violation hearings coming up, and I just wanted to make that clear. That's why I would not be advocating for a suspension of any time of your service.
And one other thing, just on that, Ginny, he was fired, and additionally, he was issued a letter of disinvite. So anytime he comes back to any craft property, be it Patriot Place or Gillette Stadium, and he's found to be there, he will be arrested for criminal trespass and have to appear back in Rentham Court. And as you'll read in your documentation, we allow a mechanism for fans who get letters of disinvite to come back to the building. But you can be certain that that individual will not have his letter of disinvite rescinded. So he can't go to the movie theater, he can't go to another establishment, or Bass Pro Shop, or Trader Joe's, or Revolution game for that matter. Or his brother's wedding, if he so chooses to have it in the club. He's not welcome back on our property.
I think you also heard from us that we have a zero tolerance policy. It's, you violate, you're done. It's not strike one, strike two, strike three, it's strike one and you're out.
Do you have facial recognition capabilities, and that's how you know, or is it just someone recognizes someone?
No, it can be recognized, or as Sergeant Noonan may attest to, we have repeat offenders for violations. So someone does stupid something once, oftentimes they come back and do it again. So they find themselves.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think I understand 15 million people, it's one offense, and it's a rogue. I had an establishment come in front of the board last year. They had 400,000 served in multiple years in business in town, and they handled it the same way you handled it, but they still got the letter. And I understand the numbers, but I think we set a precedence here that sets ourselves up to fail in the proceedings following this, if we don't follow our own guidelines and be fair to all. So I think I'm going to go the same thing with the letter. So, yes.
I just wanted to point out to the board that the previous 3 first offenders did have a suspension attached with the letter. So I just want to put that out there.
Right. And I do understand that. I don't want to bring up those prior cases, but I mean, everything's always appealable, but in any case. But the other thing was, there was something else. I'm trying to remember what we did. That was the letter of reprimand sent out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, there was something besides it. I know a couple had shut down for hours, a couple hours here or there, but there was something else that was done, and I can't put my finger on it, and somebody's gonna shout it out, I think.
Is that when we
Edward, please.
made them get the machine?
Oh, yeah.
Showcase Live had an incident that occurred in the green room, in which a minor having access to the room was found in possession of alcohol, was allowed to have alcohol, and the applicant at that time, the manager, after coming to an agreement of getting a letter of reprimand, his business group did file an appeal.
Yeah, if that's what it was. That they agree not to appeal it with just a letter of reprimand. Is that something that's in procedure, Attorney DeLuca, that we could ask that, or?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
reasonable.
So that's exactly where I'm
Yeah.
going. So my point is, I need to entertain a motion by a member of the board that would have a letter of reprimand
I'll
not to
take
be
a crack at it.
appealed.
Okay, I'll take a crack at
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, Edward.
I move that the Board of Selectmen issue a letter of reprimand to,
First, John, I think you have to do a finding.
Yep,
Yeah.
the motion for a
oh,
finding.
we do? Okay.
So
Lorraine, you're pretty good at these.
I'll try. I move that we find Gillette, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly, okay. I move that we find that there was a sale of alcohol to 2 underage persons at Gillette Stadium, 1 Patriot Place, Foxborough. Is that an adequate finding?
Yep, yeah, for a finding.
For
So
finding.
the motion is for a finding.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
I would just modify that in accordance to the police report submitted to the board tonight.
That's sufficient.
Okay.
You have that?
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, and anything else, DeLuca? Mr.
No, and
DeLuca?
then John.
No, I move that the Board of Selectmen issue a letter of reprimand to the management of Gillette Stadium in relation to the violation of the sale of liquor license, sale of liquor to a minor, with the agreement that this decision will not be appealed.
Second.
Discussion.
With just modification that the sale of liquor to 2 minors.
Thanks, Jim.
1 sale to 2 minors.
Okay. Council, is that, if you guys want to do a little talk about this before?
No, I mean, I don't see a reason why we'd ever appeal. I just, if that's customary, that the board, typically does not give the right to appeal. Have you done that in the past?
Okay. Any more discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay,
Thank you.
John, we are right on schedule. Next,
Okay,
you sure it's not the
the,
one?
the management here?
Number 2 is skip.
40.
Yeah, skip check here.
You're all set.
Okay,
Don't worry about the crowd, just keep moving.
being that it's 7:40, legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12, 2013, at 7:40 PM in the Foxborough High School Media Center, 120 South Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, pursuant to its licensing authority in accordance with Massachusetts general laws annotated, Chapter 138, Section 23, 64, and 67, and all amendments thereto. The purpose of the hearing will be to review and discuss information concerning alleged violation of Chapter 138 that occurred at Skipjack's, 226 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Massachusetts. All interested parties are invited to attend.
Anybody just wants to be part of this public hearing from Skipjack's, representing Skipjack's, come forward, please. Officer Noonan. Okay, Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Number 2.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Similarly, this, unlike the earlier case, though, was one of a number of compliance checks that were conducted in the town of Foxborough on the 26th of September, I think it was. And that was a well-advertised program in the town of Foxborough. It all happened with the assistance and the details provided by the police, where there was an operative, a young man who was under the age of 21, who was escorted into a variety of different drinking establishments here in Foxborough. I think the overall number was, according to the chief's report, somewhere 36, and was asked for service, and in this instance, he did receive service of alcohol. Sergeant Noonan is here to give you the details of this event, similar to the others, and the license holder is here, who will provide any information, additional information for the board, and we will have a recommendation for disposition in this case as well.
Okay, thank you. Officer Noonan, please.
On September 26, 2013, under the direction of Chief O'Leary, I conducted an underage compliance check of all the licensed alcohol establishments in the town of Foxborough. At approximately 9 p.m., the underage operative entered Skipjack's under the watchful eye of an undercover police officer. The underage operative walked up to the bar, made contact with a female bartender, at which time she asked what he wanted. He ordered a Bud Light. She asked for his ID. He presented his true and authentic under 21 driver's license, Massachusetts driver's license, which clearly stated that he was 19 years old. Subsequently, the bartender served him a Bud Light beer. He took possession of the beer, made payment for the beer, and received change.
And I believe it was at that point the officers moved in and confiscated the receipt as well as the alcohol, and the report was then written. There was some investigation at the scene to confirm the identity of the bartender and the like, and you have the details of that in your packet, along with a copy of the photograph of the operative, what he looked like, as well as copies of the receipts and all.
Unfortunately, as I chair a meeting, I can't look at any of this stuff, but other board members can. Just can't do both at once. Was there a bill used as typically?
We provided all monies for the underage operative.
And it's all, did the bill come back to, is that how you do it? I'm asking.
No, it's too cumbersome to start getting change. It was a minimal amount of money that we paid for the beer, so.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, you represent Skipjack's?
Yes, sir. My name's Peter Dowd. I'm general manager. And I'd like to start off by apologizing to everybody. We're not contesting it. One of our employees made a grave mistake. We immediately terminated the employee. We actually had a manager on duty that witnessed the employee ask for and receive the individual's identification. And then the manager actually witnessed the bartender look at the identification, hand the identification back to the operative, and then proceed to pour them a beer. So by all accounts, the manager had assumed, because he had witnessed all that the individual was of age. And when we asked, the employee what had happened, she just said that she had neglected to bring her glasses to work. She knew that she was being watched by the manager, so she did that more as a show, asked for the ID, figured that the kid presented it, so he must have been of age, handed it back. And regardless, again, there's no contesting we made a mistake. We immediately terminated the individual, and truthfully, we are embarrassed. We have a lot of people that come up there, and we've never had a violation. Our owner's been in business in the Boston area for 28 years, and this is only his second one of 4 restaurants. Hasn't been one in over 12 years. But again, it's just more embarrassing to us that we would fail such an easy compliance check, that no trickery was involved. Again, we have every one of our staff members ServSafe certified, TIPS certified, and brought copies of everyone's, and we also, Chief O'Leary recommended that it gets done every 2 years, not 3 years, so everyone's within that 2-year margin. And it's still embarrassing that this still happens. So we would.
Thank you. John?
No questions, thanks.
Lorraine?
Do you check identification at the door?
And we do on game days and any event days. We don't take out-of-state IDs. Most of the younger kids that have the ones that we're concerned with aren't our regular patrons, and they're only for a beer or two, so refusing them the sale, we'd prefer to not make that money and just let that go. We're more concerned with taking care of the people that come in for dinner. I mean, we serve 75% food and only 25% alcohol, so we're more concerned with providing a proper dining experience. So, UMass games with people with out-of-state IDs, we just won't accept it. They get a little upset and go elsewhere, but we would have we would have terminated the manager as well had he not actually seen all that. We try to walk around and monitor guest checks and how much they've had to drink and things of that nature, and we constantly quiz during pre-meals. It's even more embarrassing because, like you said, it was well publicized, for a year. So we'd been talking about it for, twice a day in pre-meals, once in the morning for the pre-meal and once at night. And evidently, we still didn't get the job done. So.
Thank you.
Ginny?
Yeah, and just for public information, the under 21 licenses go
Article.
this way.
Yes, ma'am.
Our older people's licenses go this way. So even if the bartender didn't have their glasses, surely she could have seen that it was an underage 21
Yeah, ma'am.
license. So, you know, I just wanted the public to know that, just in case they weren't aware of that.
Even on the 21st birthday, you can't use it, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought we had that discussion with the Gillette Stadium, they would, was it the whole area or just a couple venues said they won't even accept it anymore? The standard, because some of those can go to the over 21 till they get a renewal. So they won't even take them, just like you don't take out-of-state licenses. So maybe that should be one of the policies you introduce in the future, you know? James?
Yeah, I'm looking at the person, and he looks very young. In looking at the license, to be honest with you, I don't buy it that the person didn't have glasses, because even half-blind, they'd be able to see the license reverted the wrong way. Have you, and I apologize, I was trying to read through this when you were introduced yourself. You are not the manager?
No, I am. I
Mr.
wasn't
Dowd?
manager on duty. I
Okay.
am the manager, though, general
Okay.
manager, yes, sir.
Have you considered a scanner?
Yes, we are talking about that now. A bit pricey for us at the moment, but we do happen to have the good relationship with Bar Louie next door. They have one, and we've used theirs quite, I wouldn't say quite often, but when we have when we're seriously concerned about the authenticity of an identification, we will go next door and ask.
I think my concern is, I mean, this was in the newspapers, it was well publicized in the papers, and it's pretty blatant that that you can't recognize the license or the young age of this person coming in. And I think it's time to push for a scanner if the answer that we're getting back is the person didn't have the glasses on. Something doesn't sit right with me on that. And a price aside, I can't imagine not thinking that's a good investment with the liability and the liability that we're all dealing with on this. So if it's a cost issue, if it was anything but a cost issue, I guess I would understand it, but I don't understand it being a cost issue for that.
Okay. Anybody, as a public hearing, anybody from the public should be heard in this? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor? All right.
Aye.
Okay, I think, I can see this gentleman sincerely upset about this. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And, I would recommend the same as the prior with the letter to the file. And, I think Jimmy wants to add on a scanner. Is that something we can do, Mr. DeLuca?
Well, I think it's a great idea to recommend that. I don't see that as in your liquor regulations as within the parameters of a first violation. You know, I think the board makes a very constructive suggestion there, but I don't know that it would be proper as a condition and disposition.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on a finding.
You want to do
I move that that there is a finding of service to an underage operative that occurred at Skipjack's 226 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Mass. On
September.
September 26th.
September 26th.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, John, you want to take another crack at it?
Okay,
What is the recommendation of Attorney DeLuca?
Yes, again, consistent with your regulations, and it should be noted, there are no prior violations on record with Skipjacks during their time that they've held a license here in Foxborough. So in light of that and consistent with your regulations, I'm recommending, pursuant to the finding, a letter of reprimand be issued to the license holder and then held on file here at the town.
Jim's suggestion of a recommendation to get a scanner, could that be read in? The
Sure,
recommendation be
yeah,
made?
you certainly can make the recommendation.
Not a requirement, but a
not,
recommendation.
right, as long as it's not a condition of the disposition.
You okay with that?
No, I'm not, because it's, in all fairness, what I'm hearing is they borrow one, they don't want to invest in it, and a letter of reprimand I'm leaning towards a one-day suspension on this, because I didn't hear the depth of the steps that they're taking, they have taken, and they will take, other than it was a mistake because of glasses.
We have,
I just don't hear it, I'm sorry. And
Well-
and believe me, you look sincere,
It's not just
but
about looking sincere, you know, Mr. Early has had Mike Marcantonio from the Dram Shop come down, and he provides, since this has happened, he's had us attend alcohol awareness class again, and all of our employees have gone back to that. They've role-played on different scenarios. I mean, all of them have, myself included. We've attended these classes. We take this very seriously.
And I
That's how
understand, and
we-
I don't want to oversimplify it, but if I owned it or I was a manager,
Mhm.
all that stuff aside, if it doesn't work, the scanner is what I think is a little bit easier to understand, that if they don't have the glasses on, or if it's a friend or something, you scan it and it tells you, green light, yes, red light, no, and it takes the human factor out of it, which I think was the failure on this, was the human factor. So, and I don't doubt the steps that you're taking, but I just don't think it's, I don't think it's a tremendous hardship for one day without liquor to get a better message across.
Mark, if I might, I just had a question. I don't know, maybe Officer Noonan can answer this for us. You're talking about a scanner, Jim, but I think all that does is scan the validity of the license and not whether it's eligible for alcohol sales. Is that correct?
That's correct, but I believe it has the capability of scanning a license and saying whether or not they'd be over 21.
Okay.
Okay. So,
I'll make the motion on the letter of reprimand, and then we can discuss that if you want. Okay. I move, given the Board of Selectmen's previous finding on the violation that occurred at Skipjack's on September 26, 2013, I move that we issue a letter of reprimand to the management of Skipjack's for said violation.
Second.
discussion?
I guess under discussion, and I understand you're making the motion, is this going to end it for the board, or is there going to be another motion, or are you looking for
This would
a
end it-
suggestion
This
of
would
an
end it for the
amendment?
board,
Okay.
unless you persuade the board to go to your
Yeah, I think,
one-day suspension.
you've heard it, you don't need me to persuade you to think differently, but my feeling is, we're dealing with this constantly up here, and more liquor licenses are being asked for, and more events are happening, and we're trying to attract more people into our town. I shouldn't say we're doing it, but businesses are trying to attract more people. We spent a tremendous amount of time going through the regulations and trying to make it the best that we can, and I'm just not hearing that the message got across on this one. And I don't think the police could have done anything more up front than put it in the newspaper, put it in Facebook, put it on all the media, patch. I've seen it everywhere. And you've got to be pretty much asleep at the helm not to expect it that weekend. And when the question was brought forward, have you considered it? And the answer was, we have, but we borrow it because we don't want to invest in it. And I know they have the capabilities of reading the date specific to it being 21. I just don't want to be around for the second violation if there's an issue, and we let this one pass.
Do you want to suggest a day of the suspension? That's always been something that the board has done.
No, I would say a one-day suspension, and if the restaurant thinks through it, that it'll probably be a less onerous day for them, a Wednesday or a Tuesday, and not a weekend. And that's fine with me, but I think a one-day suspension would go a little bit more, and they can pick the day.
Any more discussion, Lorraine?
I think that we have to take into consideration the track record that was established. You have, did you say 24 years?
28 years.
28 years with, this is the second violation
In its history, yes,
in the
ma'am.
history.
It's had up to 4 operations inactive at one time.
And I think that this is obviously human error. Each one of these involves human error. I think all the correct steps were taken. The person was terminated. I know, again, I did reference earlier that our previous actions for first-time offenses involved a couple of hours of suspension. So I'm not interested in a day of suspension to consider. I'm questioning, I guess. I have a question. I don't know if it's okay for me to ask this, though. We've just heard a similar human error, a deliberate, I guess it wasn't an error,
It was
a deliberate
yeah.
deliberate action, and we did not issue any suspension. Why is this being viewed differently? I'm trying to correlate how we're acting on these things.
I think, in my mind, that was one person that deliberately, intentionally did it. He was fired. There's, short of having somebody right over his shoulder looking at the same license, I'm not sure if management could have done anything more than that. I think this one is not paying attention by that person, or being very callous about it, and not putting emphasis on what their job is and the importance of reading that license. I think it was just, she looked at it and put it back. There's nothing in here that I've seen otherwise. And if it was something that you could look at and squint and maybe get by, but it was so blatant from the report that I saw, it doesn't, vertical versus horizontal, and it was somebody not doing their job versus intentionally not doing it.
Yeah.
Jeannie, anything to add?
Well, I agree with Jim's rationale for the suspension, because the previous one at Gillette was not part of a sting. This was part of a sting. I mean, you got notice that this was going to happen. And I would think if you got notice it was going to happen, you would be hypersensitive to very young-looking, and this kid is young-looking, very young-looking people even coming into your establishment. And then when they produce a license that is so easily recognizable as an under 21 license, I do think that it was very irresponsible. And we could actually ask for up to a 3-day suspension.
I'm well aware of that, ma'am.
But, Jim's asking for a 1-day suspension and a letter of reprimand. And
Lorraine's asking, I'm not asking, formally asking, but suggesting
right.
hours versus a day. And
In line with our first offenders last time for the previous stings that were conducted.
okay.
So are you suggesting the 10 days, closing at 11 for 10
No,
days?
No,
what
it's
we
3
did
hours
for the
suspension on
previous
1 day.
stings were anywhere as we had.
Please don't mention the
No, I'm not. I'm not.
person.
I'm just saying 3.5 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, is what we've done in the past for a first offense from a sting.
From the state. So you got
Failure.
you've got some case law study there, John, you wanted to add?
Yeah, just for my own knowledge, how much does a scanner cost?
$3,000.
3,000, yeah.
$3,000. And for that to protect your business is a burden?
I didn't say it was a burden, sir. I said it was being investigated.
Okay.
Our boss is looking into it. He doesn't
Okay.
happen to be here this week, so I'm here.
Okay, I thought you said
But
in your
he was be
present financial
considering it.
situation, it
Yeah.
was a lot of money.
But he hadn't made a decision yet, and we
Okay.
talked about it. But he'll be back at the end of this week.
Okay.
That's the reason why he's not accompanying me this evening. If it makes any difference, and I don't know if it would, when we talked to the bartender and the manager, this individual that did come in there was wearing a black hoodie, and did have that hood on. Not that I can say whether or not, still when you ask for the ID, you should ask them to remove a ball cap or glasses, so you can properly look at the ID. Regardless, this individual did not do their job. And it's a reflection on us. And like I said, we're embarrassed about it. We don't promote nor condone any of that action. Immediately, that individual was terminated, not even allowed to finish the shift. We closed that bar ourselves. There's a zero tolerance policy in our establishment as well as Gillette. So, we don't take it any less seriously than anyone else. In fact, I'd like to say we're 100% confident that there will not be a second offense. Again, we're embarrassed about all this. It's not part of what we do. We're not a typical drinking establishment. We have a lot of this happen. And we knew about this thing, and it wasn't as if it was just talked about for 30 days prior. It had been talked about since the beginning of the year. So we've been promoting, talking about this at pre-meal twice a day for 9-10 months. Whether or not this individual suddenly got lax on that day, So I'm not sure, but I know that we took immediate actions right when this happened.
Thank you. All right, time to vote on John's motion.
Good.
Okay?
Well, if we vote no, then we can amend it.
If we can, if it's voted down, we'll move to another motion. So on the motion, the letter reprimand by John, seconded by Lorraine, all those in favor? All those against? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
You have 5 minutes, you want to handle that, life
Do-
is
it
good.
10? Oh, it is 10, all right. Yeah, let's,
Go to action
wanna do
items?
Go to action.
Action items
I
number
did
2.
promise the crowd that I wouldn't entertain any more citizens' input if I had time. Is there anybody here that wants to be heard in citizens' input? I'm limited to 1 minute, please.
Stephanie McGowan, 19 Rhodes Lane. I just want to say the last couple of meetings, we've heard lots of numbers thrown around. Was it 24J? I'm sorry, I don't really know the law. Is there a way that we could break these numbers down? I heard that number 38. Well, is that some of those numbers people leaving a football game where there were 65,000 people there? Or are these numbers happening from people who are eating up at Patriot Place and leaving? Are they the bars? The number's there, and I think the number is important, but I think we need to know where these people are having their last drink. Is it Patriot Place? Or, I don't want to throw names around, or is it Waxy O'Connor's? Or is it the 99? We're making a decision on something that's up at Patriot Place. I know it affects the whole town, but these numbers are being thrown out. So I think we need to investigate what the numbers really mean, not just that the numbers are there. And also, as talking about numbers, I don't know if this is the case, but I have a very good friend who's a police officer in Stoughton where I grew up. And we were just chit-chatting, and I said, the numbers of calls have risen since Patriot Place came. And so he said, really? And I said, yeah. And I was surprised actually that the number was only 900 and some odd 918 or 916 for calls that are there. But it seems like the calls just went up in general in town. And one of the things he was telling me is, are there any policies that would change at the police department? Now, in Stoughton, he just happened to say at one point, the call, he said, we had so many calls, but we've changed the policy where when we go to check buildings, that is considered a call. He said, is that what they do in Foxborough? Of course, I don't know that answer, but obviously the numbers went up. I think we need to find out why those numbers, are they because of alcohol related, or is it, somebody choked, somebody's baby had croup, somebody, a car break-in, before we're putting these numbers against an alcohol-related issue. And I don't know if we do that here in Foxborough, but he said our calls went up because now when we check a building, that's considered a call. And it wasn't prior years, and I don't know if that's what we do here in Foxborough, but, I think we need to find out what these numbers really mean and why they've gone up. Are they checking of buildings, or are they issues happening at Patriot Place? I supported...
I need to start the public
Okay.
hearing.
Well, can I
so-
just finish my sentence?
Yes.
Okay, I supported the transfer, and I'm a concerned citizen. I have 2 young children in this town. I am concerned about drunk driving. But if we could find out what the numbers really mean, then I would feel more comfortable of these numbers that are being thrown out. And if we can break them down, what they actually mean, I think some citizens then we could understand what the numbers are.
Thank you. Okay. John,
Are we going to do life is good, or are we going to go to the public hearing?
we're going to public hearing.
Okay. Legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12, 2013, at 8:10 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Media Center, 120 South Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, pursuant to its licensing authority in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws annotated Chapter 138, Sections 23, 64, and 67, and all amendments thereto. The purpose of the hearing will be to review and discuss information concerning alleged violation of Chapter 138 that occurred at Tastings Wine Bar and Bistro, 201 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Massachusetts. All interested parties are invited to attend.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, now that we've opened the public hearing, I'd like to go back to that one action item that we wanted to move on. So I open it on time. and it's the number 2.
One-day beer and wine license.
Yes. Well, I might as well keep it all alcohol tonight.
Do you want me to just
Okay,
make a
so
motion?
could Val Swartz please come forward quickly, please? I know she's another engagement.
how are you?
Fine, thank you for coming, thank you for your patience.
No problem.
You want to just give a quick brief of what you want to do?
Sure. So I want to obtain a one-time beer and wine license for our grand opening party at Patriot Place. It's located at 250 Patriot Place next Thursday, November 21st. The party will be from 7 to 10 p.m. And I'm here to obtain that one-day license. We'll have event temps pouring our beer and wine from Peak Organic and 90-plus sellers. So there are licensed pourers, so they'll be IDing people at the door and wristbanding people. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Any questions from the board? John? Motion?
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen grant a one-day beer and wine license to Doing Business as Life is Good Company at 250 Patriot Place. The hours of 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. on November 21st, 2013.
Second.
Discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have that for
And-
you tomorrow.
And earlier, we were going to have chairman's update, and I just wanted to make a quick statement that on the next agenda item, we will have on it discussion on the topic brought up tonight of Splitsville, because people want to be heard on both sides, and other people, including board members, would like to make some clarifying statements. And I'll ask Bob to do that. In the meeting of your choice, Bob, it doesn't have to be the next one, depending on the agenda. And then Jim DeVellis had something he wanted to talk about real quick.
Yeah, just, I guess on a little bit more of a happier note, and before it got too late for some of the seniors. There's a program that we're trying to get going, starting this year, and it's geared towards the veterans. It's the veterans of Foxborough and the veterans of Mansfield. We have a football game coming up. It's going to be hosted, the Thanksgiving game is going to be hosted in Foxborough this year. So what we're offering, what I'm going to talk very briefly about is what the program is, why we're doing it, and then who's doing it. So what the program is we are inviting all of the vets in the town of Foxborough and Mansfield to attend the Foxborough-Mansfield football game free of charge, and we're going to pick up the tab for that. It's not only the veterans, but it's the veterans' families. So if it's grandchildren, wives, husbands, they get to we're going to give them an admission ticket that they wear around their neck, and the families can come in, and it's a sideline pass, and it basically says 2013 Thanksgiving Day game to our men and women in uniform, past, present, and future. God bless and thank you, and it's a sideline pass. In addition to that, any veteran in the town of Foxborough or Mansfield that would like a Thanksgiving turkey, we're going to get them a coupon for a Thanksgiving turkey free of charge. And I want to make it very clear, it's not a charity, it's a thank you. I made this announcement at the Veterans Day celebration that we had at the Foxborough High School. The reason that we're doing it is really very simple, and it can't get any simpler than this, is just to say thank you to the vets and their families for serving. And it's also a way to have the kids today participate and reconnect with the veterans, so you don't have to explain what Veterans Day is or explain Memorial Day. It's a way that, you know, someone, a World War II vet or a vet, can stand on the sidelines with their son, daughter, niece, nephew. We're going to get a group picture between Mansfield and Foxborough, all the players with this group. Put our differences and our rivalry aside for 5 minutes. We're going to make an announcement and thank the vets, and then we play football. Who's doing it? I was approached. I've got a cousin in Mansfield, Richie Palanza, who is working with the equivalent of our Foxborough football touchdown. They call it the Touchdown Club. They call it the Gridiron Club over in Mansfield, and they've been successful in fundraising. So we're not sure how many people are going to take advantage of it. But again, it's not a charity. I would say if you're a vet, please take advantage of it. It's a way of saying thank you. And we'll figure out the fundraising between now and then. And I think Mansfield put it nicely. My cousin Richie had said, you know, if the problem is too many people sign up, that's a nice problem to have. So again, it's Thanksgiving. football game, and it's going to be in Mansfield. If you can reach out, we're going to get flyers, and it's going to be, did I say Mansfield? Sorry, it's in Foxborough, right, thank you. So give me a call, use my email. If you're more comfortable, Michael Johns, who is our Veteran Service Officer, is taking calls, and we're just simply putting a list together, and we'll get you the passes and get you a nice place to sit on the sideline. So, thank you.
Okay, great, Jim. And if any other board member has an announcement like that, and you want to do it on Chairman's Update, I don't know if I've ever stated that, please do so. Let me know. You're more than welcome to. Okay, back to the public hearing. Anybody from Tastings Wine Bar and Bistro come forward, please?
Thank you.
Could you give one to the record too, please? That's fine. I can't read and talk at the same time.
I'll take it, I'll let them know if you got it, or do you want to read it?
We'll give you one, Frank, when we're done.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Okay, Attorney DeLuca, could you start again, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This hearing, similar to the last, involves a compliance check that was done on September the 26th. Officer Noonan is here to provide the facts in this case. Following the facts, you may inquire of this license holder any questions you may have, and then following that, there is an agreed-upon recommendation. Officer Noonan.
Officer Noonan.
On September 26, 2013, under the direction of Chief O'Leary, I conducted a compliance check at all the licensed liquor serving establishments in the town of Foxborough. At approximately 9:10 p.m., the underage operative entered Tastings Wine Bar and Bistro under the watchful eye of an undercover police officer. The underage operative made his way over to the bar, took a seat at the bar, and had conversation with the bartender. The bartender asked what he was having to drink. He ordered a Bud Light, at which time she asked for his identification. He produced his true and authentic under 21 Massachusetts driver's license, which he took, looked at, and then gave back to him. She then served him a Bud Light, at which time he paid for the drink.
Same operative. Okay, thank you. Okay. Would you like to make a statement that you...
Yes. I want to say, first of all, that we're mortified by this event. This is not what we're all about. We have a clientele that tends to be a little older than the average bar up at Patriot Place. Nevertheless, in my opinion, that in some regards made it worse because the person stuck out like a sore thumb. The girl that was bartending at the time, when she realized what had happened, was absolutely mortified. She accepted full responsibility, knew that he appeared underage, and I think she simply looked at the wrong date on the license, which was an unacceptable explanation to us. She was suspended for 3 days, became highly emotional. She's one of our best employees, so we did show some degree of lenience towards her. She's in the service now as a National Guard member and working part-time at Tastings. So particularly disappointed given her background in the military, and to fail to pay attention enough was unacceptable in our view. So since starting the very next day after that violation, we kind of pulled out all of our guns in terms of process changes. We required all the serving staff and managers to be re-tip certified. Even if they were certified, they had to get a fresh certification. We spent a lot of money to bring in a so-called TIPS master trainer to come in and do a large group training with a lot of interaction and role-playing for the majority of the staff. There were a couple individuals that could not attend that session. They were required to complete an online TIP certification course that was approved by the state of Massachusetts. They have all done so. So we have everyone on the staff has been recertified. There have been multiple meetings at pre-meetings, discussing this issue and making it clear that if it happens again, we will likely go beyond a three-day suspension for the next individual. So the letter that I've set out here, addressed to the selectmen, kind of lists the 9 actions that we've taken. I've talked about the first 2. Third, we have instituted, and this is not really anything new, but it's become heightened diligence in this matter. At every pre-shift, there's some degree of discussion around safe alcohol service. We have required that every serving staff member, as well as the managers, read the regulations from the town of Foxborough. They've all done so, signed and acknowledged that they fully understand it. We had Q&A sessions on those regulations at the tip certification course that we conducted. We have updated ID checking guides behind the bar. We have calendars behind the bar with the minimum drinking age on it. We've instituted a process that for any suspicious activity, whether it's proven to be a violation or not, of someone trying to present a fake ID or an underage person, that gets documented the day it happens, and kept in a log that is kept in the office. We've decided to go beyond just our serving staff, such that for private events, we're now requiring the host of the private event to actually sign a document where we set out what our liquor serving policies are, so there's no confusion around what our rules are when it comes to a large private event that might take place in the restaurant. And lastly, we've modified our employee manual so that the current set of rules and regulations are actually attached as part of the manual, and when an employee is hired, they've got to read the manual, acknowledge that they've read it, acknowledge that they understand it. So the intent of the letter here is to really show not only our extreme disappointment in our staff for this event having happened, but really to highlight the number of actions we've taken to make sure it doesn't happen again. I would point out that we have had training for the staff. We do require tip certification. The manager on duty recognized the individual as someone that was underage and made sure that the bartender carded the individual. And we just had human error. The bartender was trained. She should have known what she was looking at, and for whatever reason on that particular day, she didn't. She failed. She paid a price, and we regret being here tonight for sure.
Okay, thank you. John?
Yeah, just to get a scale, I don't know, how many liquor serving employees do you have generally on a weekend night?
On a weekend night,
Yeah.
probably 4 serving staff and 2 bartenders. So
Okay, so it's not a huge
6 or
staff.
so.
Right.
No,
Okay.
no.
All set?
Yep.
Lorraine?
Just how frequently do you retrain for tips? Are you
Well,
doing
the
it
tip
every 3
certification
years
is
or 2?
3 years, but in this case, we required kind of an automatic recertification for everyone
Mandatory.
involved, and it's something we'll probably look at doing maybe not every year, but certainly every 2 years. And anyone that comes in to be hired will have to be tip certified before they start on the job.
Okay, thank you.
Ginny?
you said that when she read the license, she just misread the date. It's, like I said, it's a vertical license rather than a horizontal
Yeah.
license. It's pretty hard not to realize that that's an under 21 license.
I don't
But
disagree
there's-
with you one bit.
Right, I
Mhm.
don't disagree either. But we have had instances where the vertical license does have a valid, in other words, it's a valid ID, where the dates, like, where there would be somebody, for instance, who's away at college, who is over 21, but they
Mhm.
still have the vertical license.
Mm-hmm.
So in this particular case, she claims that that's exactly what she thought. She misread the date. So that's...
And also in the other, anytime that I'm aware of, we've had liquor violations, the server was actually fired. The person no longer works at the establishments where the incident happened.
Yeah.
And, you suspended her for three shifts.
3
Right.
busy shifts.
Yeah, well, she was suspended for the weekend where, bartender makes, the vast majority of their money. This is a case where the girl acknowledged that she was at fault. She was a member of the military. We felt that, she deserved a second chance versus just firing her outright.
Yeah, and like you said, you have usually it's an older crowd, so the idea of using a scanner really isn't really, because your crowd is definitely, usually older. Trying to sneak a 55-year-old through.
And from what I've been told from various sources is that the scanners are not 100% foolproof anyway. That even, some of the scanners that are out there, whatever the cost would be, but that there's so many really quality, good fake IDs out there that, there's still going to be error.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's why I was particularly upset with this situation, because, a 19-year-old kid walks into tastings and
This kid,
they're a red herring.
we have pictures of it. The audience doesn't
Definitely doesn't
have
fit in your
pictures. This
establishment.
kid was young looking.
Right.
With a
Or the
license
other
that
so
is
far.
that is vertical.
Exactly. We feel the exact
Yeah.
same way, so.
Okay.
James?
Yeah, I actually know Patty and Bill. There's no conflict, but just want to let people. I know they've done a charity for me a few years back. I'm very surprised that Hastings was along the list. What wasn't mentioned is Patty and Bill are owners and operators. One of I think the only local family restaurant that's up at Patriots Place. And I know you put the sweat in. You guys are there all the time. Unfortunately, I always say the reasons that I vote the way I do. But out of consistency, it was a pretty easy thing to recognize that license. So whether it was a mistake or just unconsciousness, the same feelings that I had with the previous violation I have with this, that I think it's warranting of a 1-day, a reprimand and a 1-day suspension. And I'm sorry that it has to be tastings, but that's the way I'm feeling.
It's a public hearing. Before I speak, anybody in the audience who should be heard? Seeing none? John?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay. On Ginny's point about terminating the employee, some of the biggest mistakes people make in life are learned by a bad mistake, and they'll never make it again. So I'm not one to say, yeah, you should have terminated that employee, no matter what her background, service or non-service is. Any employee, any person that works for an establishment, I can guarantee you that girl will never make that mistake again. Sometimes you got to learn your lessons the hard way. So I'm not always one to say, okay, that person was fired immediately, to agree with that. But, it sounds like you handled it pretty well, and I know it's upsetting to be here. So I'm one to go with the same as the prior, and see if we can move forward, and hopefully we don't have this come forward in front of us again. Anybody else wish to speak?
Was that your recommendation, Attorney, DeLuca?
Yes, consistent with your regulations. Again, this is another instance where there's no prior record that we're aware of since their licensor here in Foxborough. In light of that, my recommendation was for the board to exercise its discretion for a letter of reprimand to be entered into the record so that if there is any subsequent event, you'd have that information.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? I'll entertain a motion
So,
on the findings.
right. Okay, so I move that there's a finding of service of alcohol to an underage operative at Tastings Wine Bar and Bistro, 201 Patriot Place, Foxborough, Mass. That occurred on September 26, 2013.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
On the finding, James?
Oh, on the finding?
On the
Yes.
finding.
Correct.
Okay, 5-0. Okay, and I'll entertain another motion.
Okay, given the previous finding by the Board of Selectmen, I move that the board issue a letter of reprimand to the management of Tastings Wine Bar and Bistro for the violation that occurred on September 26, 2013.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? All those against? 3-2. Diana?
And just to let you know, the reason I voted against the letter of reprimand and the reason the previous one is because I thought each of them should have had a one-day suspension, and I was waiting for the motion to be amended for that. I voted no, I did not think that you should not get a letter of reprimand. I just want you to realize that, is that the reprimand and a suspension did not come up for a vote.
Yeah, I
just want you
understand
to
that.
realize that.
But Diane, you can reflect that in the notes.
Yeah, on both of these, I'm sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
on both of them. You want me to read it, too?
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You won't see us
All
here
right.
again on this matter like this.
Okay, back to action. John, you want to handle that? Okay. Got 7 minutes.
Okay, who's got the action list? Okay.
Anybody have a problem with the minutes on the 9/17/13?
I had
Didn't
one
we
note.
already vote on these?
No, they've been showing up in our packet, but
Yeah.
we run out of
Yeah,
time.
but-
About a month now.
But I thought on the 15th, it says that we voted, we already approved them.
On the what?
Yeah, it says, action items, the minutes of September 17th and October 1st were reviewed. Motion to approve the minutes of September 17th was approved, and October 1st was approved. So we've already approved these.
All right?
Is that consistent with your notes?
Wow. Diana?
The minutes show that September 17th and October 1st were approved.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the,
Can I make one correction, even though we approved it? 'Cause I don't remember reading this.
They'd have to be brought back
Yeah.
up, and so can I make a recommendation? We skip the minutes for right now because we've got very limited time.
yeah,
Go to some of the easier
we'll
items.
put them back on the next agenda.
Well, no, you can get back to them later tonight, but just
Okay.
for trying to keep with the.
All right, go down to number 3, John.
You have the details. Ah, thank you, got it. Okay, item number 3 is a gift acceptance to the board, to the library, Board and Library Board. And I'll read it. The Board of Trustees requests Selectmen's approval of a gift to the Board and Library in the amount of $20 from Thomas and Adele Corrigan, 624 Old Post Road, North Attleboro, Mass. 02760, to be deposited to the library gift fund. And I'll move that we accept the donation from the Corrigans with gratitude.
Second.
Discussion?
Just a quick discussion, and I appreciate the Corrigans with the $20 gifts, and it is generous. Why are we accepting a $20? I thought it was a $50 or more, or any amount?
Any gift needs to be accepted by the board.
That's okay.
So that's clarification for any department, any of these gift funds, whether it's the library, conservation, any other departments. It needs to be accepted by the Board of Selectmen.
And it's a cash gift, or is it
Cash
service
gift, services, anything.
Material, anything.
Material.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, John?
Okay, this is a grant award acceptance, and this was submitted by the police chief. The Secretary of Public Safety has awarded the town of Foxborough a grant of $5,000 to continue our efforts to prevent underage drinking. This award is the result of the dedication that Sergeant Richard Noonan has put into the project. I ask the board to accept this funding. A copy of the award notice is attached. I'll make a motion the Board of Selectmen accept the grant of $5,000 going to the police department for the prevention of underage drinking.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mark, may I ask, since we have Officer Noonan here, just to thank him for his efforts on behalf of the town?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Okay. I thought he left. He was hiding in the corner. Okay, number five.
Okay, this is an allocation, and I'll read how it goes. It's an allocation of $4,250, and it is from the Massachusetts Cultural Council being transferred to the Foxborough Cultural Council. And this is a grant?
It's actually just authorizing me to sign acceptance of that grant. The application is
Okay.
here in the...
I'll make a motion that we authorize the acting town manager to accept the grant of $4,250 from the Massachusetts Cultural Council to our Foxborough Cultural Council.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we still got a couple of minutes here.
Okay, Bob, do you want to tee this one up about the signs?
Sure. So we've been having some issues with parking at Town Hall parking lot, overnight weekend issues, and it's become an issue for the Loss Control Committee. We had an incident last winter where during a snowstorm, there was a vehicle that had been left in the parking lot, and the plows accidentally made contact with that vehicle, causing damage and costing the car owner and the town some monies. So it's been suggested through meetings at Loss Control that there be signs placed in the parking lot, no overnight parking, violators to be towed at vehicle owner's expense. Please take notice. Copy of that is in your packet. It's a recommendation of the Loss Control Committee, and they're requesting that you approve that action on their behalf, where you are responsible for issuing permission for sign placement within the town.
So Bob, this is only for Town Hall?
I believe that they would like to also do it at the library and other town locations. But I know that the main focus right now is...
I understand that there's one for the library, but the no parking overnight is for Town Hall or all?
Well, I would say all town buildings, but I think the main focus right now is the Town Hall, where that is used frequently on weekends especially, and it's a big problem in the winter months with the plowing.
I don't have a problem with it. I'm just wondering if it's, somebody's been doing it for month after month or year after year. Has been any dialogue with that person to move their vehicle, or are we just going to put up signs and they're going to see a sign? Because I know it's not, the reason I'm asking, because it happens in other places.
Sure.
In town. I know at the IGO school there's somebody.
Definitely.
I'm not sure, because, there are multiple people that probably do that on different occasions. So obviously, anyone that is a constant user of the lot would have to have a discussion with someone from Town Hall. But
Why don't we shelve this to the next meeting, just as one thing, just in case anybody in the town of Foxborough wants to speak out against this in all fairness.
if you'd rather make it an actual
I
an
necessarily don't have a
action
problem
item,
with it.
not an action item, but an actual agenda item for future action, that would
It
probably
might
make some
warrant it,
sense.
because there's Liberty Place, and there's people that live there, and it's kind of like we're in their parking lot just as much as they're in ours, and if they have somebody come over to visit in-laws or something, God forbid, you know, they don't have to, they might not have any place to park them. And it might be one of those things they've been having for forever. I mean, I understand the snowstorm, absolutely no parking in municipality parking lots, but if you want to say just in the snowstorms, I'm good with it right now, but if you want to have that, it needs to be discussed, because I know they will reach out. They haven't contacted me either, I just know
Oh, yeah,
they will.
yeah.
And, you know, when we had our meetings there, they put up with the loud excess of people at, you know, 12, 1 o'clock and cold nights, and it's loud, and the lights shine in their house and going down the road, and I think we owe them that consideration,
So we'll make that an agenda item.
agenda item.
Okay.
Can we also include in the agenda items the no stopping or standing during stadium events signs that are in Walpole? And I asked if they could be on North Street, and I was told they would be.
I believe there are some there already.
No,
but-
there's no parking. There's no parking during stadium events, which are, a lot of them are in pretty bad shape, you can't read them. But this is no stopping or standing during stadium events, because there's been instances where people are lined up on North Street with the motors running, and what they're doing is standing.
Okay,
And that's
well,
been a
we
complaint.
We can't go any further with this one, because it's,
No, well, I'm
'cause
saying to
Edward's getting up,
report-
I'm saying.
No, well, okay.
No, she gets her point, so when we look into that, Bob, I don't want to comment on that.
Just
All right.
I've
Clarity,
got a
Mark,
notation, we'll bring that up.
Did you say, God forbid, the in-laws park there? Just in case Mary Ann.
Oh, visiting.
Is that what you meant?
Visiting. Randy caught that joke. I saw him from all the way up here. Pass that to Bob, please. Okay, I'm gonna have,
I'll tee this one up and then
well,
I'll...
I don't think you should do that. I think you should have Lorraine read the public notice, because you got to recuse. You want to make that,
Yeah, just so the public knows, I'm a past president and a current member of the Foxborough Country Club, and this next matter concerns the Foxborough Country Club, so I'll sit in the audience while this takes place.
I am also going to recuse myself from the table as I am a member.
that's three of us now. Oh, that's right, you wouldn't let me in your club.
I am a member of the country club, so I will take a seat as well.
Okay, so it's the legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12, 2013, at 8:40 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Media Center, 120 South Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, pursuant to its licensing authority in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, annotated Chapter 138, Sections 23, 64, and 67, and all amendments thereto. The purpose of the hearing will be to review and discuss information concerning alleged violation of Chapter 138 that occurred at Foxborough Country Club, 33 Walnut Street, Foxborough, Mass. All interested parties are invited to attend. Published on October 24th, 2013.
Thank you, Lorraine. All interested parties, come forward, please. Is Officer Noonan still here? Thank you. Attorney DeLuca, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is yet another alleged violation arising out of a compliance check that was done on September the 26th. The Foxborough Police, in cooperation with the Stoughton Police,
Yes.
worked a similar operation whereby an underage person was escorted into a licensed establishment and sought to be served alcohol, and in this instance, again, was. Officer Noonan will give us the details of the matter, and we have a joint recommendation for your consideration.
Thank you.
On September 26, 2013, under the direction of Chief O'Leary, I conducted an alcohol compliance check of all the licensed liquor establishments in the town of Foxborough. At approximately 6:20 p.m., underage operative, under the watchful eye of an undercover police officer, entered the Foxborough Country Club, made his way to the bar, had conversation with the bartender, at which time she asked what he'd like to order. He stated a Bud Light, at which time she asked for his identification. He presented his true and valid, authentic, under 21 Massachusetts driver's license, which he took possession of, read, gave back to him, and subsequently served him a bottle of Bud Light beer. He paid for the beer and also took possession of it.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
Thank you for the opportunity to respond. Excuse me. I apologize to the town for the circumstances that bring us here tonight. There's no dispute. The bartender did saw the individual come in, asked for the license, and proceeded to serve him. She did not have a good explanation, other than she thought it had a valid date, then it was that she was tricked. Of course, that's the nature of a sting. We are diligent about our training. We do follow the state laws and the town laws. All of our employees are currently tip certified. They all are certified yearly, and we have everyone that is certified is being recertified. Most of them have already conducted that again. The rest are scheduled to be recertified. We have monthly meetings as well. We review any current issues, especially in the season when we have outside outings. We review all of the date, the current date as far as any birth date. We do have an older membership, so it's not an issue we deal with other than when we have Monday outings in the season. So we review the date each time those outings come up. We review the policies. We go over any letters that we received regarding compliance checks. As a matter of fact, the day before this compliance check, everyone was reminded that there was one going on. Gillette Stadium had a compliance check. So there's no good explanation as to why this individual did not understand that license. We've been in Foxborough for more than 50 years. We've had no violations. And I can vow that that won't happen again. The individual was terminated. And everyone else is being recertified as well as monthly meetings.
Okay, thank you. Did you get his name for the record? I missed that, Diana.
Are you Mr. Champagne?
Yes, I am.
Okay, one thing that we haven't brought up earlier is the fact that back in the day when we, 05, 06, when we had some of these stings go through, the other establishments used to call the other establishments and say, hey, we just got a sting in here. I mean, everybody tipped each other off.
Oh,
You know?
good, letting them know now.
No, but it's something.
Great.
It's something I can't understand that because I can remember people saying, you know, we just got tipped off and we still got busted.
Well, considering this was at 6:20, maybe they were the first ones.
Yeah, could
And
be.
you didn't call the other people.
So that's usually how it usually. I've never seen multiple places get taken on a sting. It's always one in the past years until last year. And there was always one. That was it. So, Lorraine, you have any questions?
No, also, thank you.
Jenny?
You said that the server has been terminated?
Yes.
James?
I can be as repetitive as you have
Recorder?
time for, but I'll tell you, I mean, we just heard one of the action items, we just spending $5,000 for underage drinking. This happens at 6 in the afternoon. What's it gonna take for, this is our fourth one tonight. It's almost getting routine, and I think that's why maybe we have so many that are getting caught, because this is getting very routine. And, the first applicant said, they didn't even want a letter of reprimand. I just don't understand how we're not giving a one-day suspension for the ones that come up in front of us and say, I don't know what happened, it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, it was somebody not doing their job. All it takes is to look at the packet and look at, this kid looks 13 years old. He's got a license that I've never seen before because I'm older. It's in the opposite direction. And was saying, I don't know how this happened, after seeing it in the paper. So, I mean, if we had 10 more, I'm going to say the same thing. There's going to be an issue where there's going to be an accident, and they're going to say, why didn't you guys do more? We're spending the money, we're spending the time, we're revamping the regulations, and when it comes in front of us, we're sending a letter. I can be as repetitive. If there's 5 more, I'm going to say the same thing. The kids are drinking, the kids are going to these establishments, and we're saying, well, we'll get you the next time, and here's a letter. And I'm sorry I'm coming down on you, but you happen to be the fourth one in here. It's somebody that, at 6 in the afternoon, from an older clientele that come in there, this thing should have stuck out like a flag you wouldn't believe is flying in the wind. And it hasn't. And it's a country club, and it's Foxborough, and they've been in business, and we just gave them a license a few sessions ago to expand it so they can serve it on the golf course. I mean, come on, guys.
Okay, well,
We can do better than this.
I agree.
Well,
I agree with what Jim just said.
I
Go ahead, Lorraine.
just want to suggest, perhaps we should be talking to Chief O'Leary about doing more frequent stings, if that's a possibility, to,
And if you can guess, we can ask him, but if he comes back and says, why do more stings when they don't seem to be working people, what are we going to say then? Well, then we'll pick up the regulations and really read them? I'm not being sarcastic, but he can do 100 stings and 100 people come in front of us, and we say, here's another letter, and we'll get you the second time,
The reason why I stayed with this approach, James, I try to be very level with the way I treat all liquor license violations across the board to show that, the first time you get, it's always been with me in the past, even to the day we get these new regulations, Lorraine, Chief O'Leary, and a few other people work very hard on. I've always tried to be one-time lenient. It's the second time, and I understand your point. I've always tried to be fair across the board, and I've always wanted to stay that way. So somebody say, oh, you treated this person differently than that person. But in this case, you went from a $15 million person venue to date. Then you went to a smaller venue at Tastings that, Skipjack prior to that. That's only 25% of alcohol sales. And this kid, you're right, sticks out like a sore thumb. I couldn't believe he got by both, but I believe the sincerity, and they just needed, to get, I just trust them that it's not going to happen again. This one I find a little bit more difficult because it's a private club. How does a kid get into that club dressed like that and go up to your bar?
Well, we are semi-private, so we do have public that do come in. They're not talking about the age and the looks, but as far as we do allow non-members.
You have a
access
dress
to the club.
code at your establishment, don't you, to a point where
To a
you have a
point,
collared
and-
shirt at all times? I mean, I've been golfing a long time, guys. Anytime you dress in a proper attire, I don't think I've ever been on a course once where you're allowed to dress without, khakis and a collared shirt.
The code is enforced on the course, but not in the clubhouse, as far as jeans and other attire, especially as we get into the off-season. So that's part of it.
Right. Well, that's, that really stands out in this position to me. Lorraine, you have something to say?
I just want to check Chief O'Leary. Chief, did we do a sting at the stadium? No.
They were not open.
No.
He's got a report.
As I recall, in Sergeant Noonan's report to me, there were several different venues that were not open on the night in question, as happened in the past with Foxborough Country Club and a variety of the other establishments that are licensed in the community. Sometimes they are just not open or available.
So when that happens, do you return on a date that they are open?
Ordinarily not, because there's a higher price. We have bought tickets to certain events such as Showcase Live that are fairly cheap, so that we would be able to check their compliance. But we have not done the stadium due to the high cost of the entry fee. But we have more officers monitoring activities inside the stadium on a regular basis.
Thank you.
But Lorraine, excuse me, the thing with the Gillette Stadium in tonight's hearings, that was not part of the sting, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, that was like a separate type of violation. But these were actually the stings.
Right. I'm just trying to, I don't want to compare that because that's a different situation. This is a sting operation. So, again, I think in terms of consistency, I think that a letter of reprimand, it's recommended.
Yes,
by you.
for the board's consideration, again, consistent with your rules and regulations, and in light of the fact that there's no prior violations on record for this license holder, we would recommend, or I would recommend to the board, a letter of reprimand that remain on file, and with the understanding that there would be nothing further in this case.
Attorney DeLuca, just so the board understands, because I could see this be going in a bad way real quick here. It goes 2-2. That's a no decision. What happens?
Well, the only recommendation I would make is that you need to refashion your motion to deal with that. Can't offhand think of an example, but I'm guessing there'll be a motion for finding, and then the motion that would follow relative to a disposition of this case could be for a certain action, whether it be reprimand or suspension or some other action to be taken. In this instance, we would need either a unanimous vote or a 3-to-1 vote in order for something to carry. Otherwise, you're right. You could suggest a motion, and if it's going to be a 2-to-2 motion, it's not going to carry.
And that's it. It's over. If it
No,
goes
you
2-2.
make a reconsideration, you'd
Well, I'm just trying not
Yeah.
to go down this road.
Yeah.
I'd rather not, test the waters. On the 2-2, I've been told in the past, if it's a 2-2, it ends. That's it. So let's go with the findings. Lorraine,
Well,
you could-
the hearing's still open, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Can
Anybody
I
in
ask
the
Mr.
public?
Champagne a question? I know it's the country club, and I have a lot of friends that are there. Has been in business for 50 years. How long have you been a manager for?
I've been the manager for almost 2 years.
How many?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. So I would say to the board, being a manager for 2 years and having one violation is not a good track record, regardless of the establishment being 48 years prior to. And I'm not trying to come down on you personally, I don't know you, but, if this happened during a big function or, maybe out on, but at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, when the kids comes in jeans, a Columbia sweatshirt, I just don't know how that happens under these circumstances with all the notice, so.
Anybody from the public wish to be heard in this matter? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion, Lorraine.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion on the findings.
I move that there is a finding of service to an underage operative that occurred at the Foxborough Country Club, 33 Walnut Street, on September 26, 2013.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
This
I
is for the
think
finding.
yeah. Okay, so all those in favor on the finding?
Aye.
I am. I'm overthinking this now. The next motion, I think, needs to be made very carefully, where it goes to, and Mr. DeLuca, if you could help me with this, that there is a letter of reprimand put on file as to follow with the other motions. But if the motion goes 2-2, that it goes back to a discussion? Is that legal, Mr.?
Well, the motion would fail.
Yeah.
And then there would need to be some form of motion for either to reconsider or to rescind the vote. And again, you could refashion a motion that the proponent might think acceptable to 3 of the 4 board members, and seek a vote on that.
Then I will make a motion, because I can see where this is going. Does anybody mind if I make the motion?
No.
That we go to a letter of reprimand and a 1-day suspension to be served in January. February.
Do we choose the date?
You can choose the date in February. I'm
So
trying to meet a.
So basically,
I'm
it's
trying to
not,
hit
it's
a
not,
ha-
it's not golf season,
It's
it's
not
not holiday
impacting, I'm
season.
trying to meet you a happy meeting with this board
Mhm.
and get rid of the standoff, because I don't want to go all night with this, because I'm reading what's happening here, and it's, so. Is there a second?
So the motion is a letter of reprimand and a 1-day to be
Served
in February 2014.
Yes.
And I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Anything wrong with that, Mr. DeLuca?
No, that's a good motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay. How diverse is this board tonight? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'm avoiding the 2-2 like the plague. Okay. We are back. Where's the agenda? All right.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. We've got 15 minutes before the joint meeting. Is everybody here for the joint meeting? I'm just wondering, should we get another public hearing at 9:30? So that'll probably be our last agenda item.
Just check with Bob if
You
it's all
wanna
right
do
for
your
us to take it early.
The public hearing, no.
No, I meant the
You know what?
joint meeting.
Want to start this up now?
I was thinking of just
Do you want to do the
doing a charter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's do the minutes. Good point. Let's do the minutes. Go
No, we're
back
gonna
to
say
the
we're
minutes.
gonna hold off on the minutes.
Yeah, just to later in the discussion, not to, this evening. Okay, Bob, now that you're back, do you want to do the minutes? Attorney DeLuca, are you through with us tonight?
I'm just checking with Mr. Cutler here. I think I'm all set with the matters that I had with you tonight. I'm still corresponding with Mr. Cutler about some of the matters we have from a week ago, but that's a work in progress as well. But
Okay.
yeah, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave it at this point. That's
Hate to
okay.
see you go.
Thank you.
Have a safe night. Thank you for everything.
Okay, thank you.
Just the
Okay, so Jeannie, you brought up the minutes. You want to carry that discussion further?
Well, we were asked to approve the minutes of September 17th and October 1st, but at our meeting on October 15th, in the action items, it says that we already approved the September 17th minutes and the October 1st minutes, so we've already approved these. Unless there's something about the minutes that has to be reviewed, but we've already approved them, so.
And then James would like to...
Yep, I'm good.
You're good, okay.
Okay, so all we have to do is, I'll make a motion to approve October 15th, and we can close them out.
Yep.
Okay. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the minutes from our meeting on October 15th, 2013, as submitted.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then we're done with action, correct? All right, and is the school committee and the advisory committee ready to proceed? Is all your members here? Okay, Larry, do you have enough members here? Do you need a quorum is my question, Larry? Okay, okay, why don't you guys, I know there's not a lot of mics, but Randy, everybody come forward.
Yeah, why don't you sit up here?
Yeah.
You like that?
Extra copies.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do, obviously, AdCom doesn't, we only have two members that I see. But I know, I know the school committee does. Katie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Would you guys like to open your meeting? Did you post a meeting?
Did we post the meeting?
They're
Of course we
posted.
They're posted. Just
A long time ago. Okay, so we need to call our meeting to order. Time being 9 o'clock.
Okay. I'll turn it right over to you, Randy.
Great, thank you. Pleasure to see everybody here tonight. Hopefully I can change the mood a little bit. Got some good news. Talking about the preliminary revenue estimate for the fiscal 2015 general fund operating budgets. This is about the time of year that we talk about this, so we can start to plan our budgets around revenue expectations. At a high level, we're looking at about a 4.3% or $1.87 million increase in funds available for the FY15 general fund budgets. That's municipal and school. And that's after an allowance for fixed costs, insurances, debt service, et cetera. So 1.87 million net projected to be available for general fund budgets. And I'm just going to break down the two major components, the revenue side, what we see happening there, and then on the fixed cost side. On the revenue side, looks like an increase of about 2.52 million, and it's broken down into four areas. About 1.77 million, or a 4.6% increase in net taxation, and that breaks down further to there's 918,000 from allowable levy limit increase, of 2.5%, and our estimate at this point in time for new growth taxes is about 802,000. We're starting on an upward trend at this point with the development in the town, driven by a combination of both commercial and residential. Both of them are coming in strong. That's an estimate that will be refined as we march forward, because we can capture growth through June 30. But that's we feel good about this number. It's developed by the chief assessor, the building commissioner, and myself. The other area is just a minor adjustment to taxation, increase of 57,000 due to bringing our snow and ice reserve back to the 4 or 5 year trend. So we pick up about 77,000 there. You know how we budget for a snow and ice deficit beyond what our budget is. So we pick up about 77,000 there, and then that nets down due to rounding. There's rounding that we have to do because we can only tax out to the penny, 20,000. So we pick up about 57,000 there in our planning. So 1.77 million net increase in taxation, which is about 70% of the growth here. State aid at this point, obviously it's very early. We won't see the governor's budget until late in January. But, in discussions, preliminary discussions that we've had, Bob and I have had, with Jay, and obviously taking stock of the economy and how tax receipts are coming in, I think we'd be surprised at this point if there was, downward pressure on state aid. But, we tend to be conservative on the state aid at this early juncture, and then once we get the governor's number, that's when we can put a stake in the ground. So at this point, looking at the trends and the numbers that we do receive, projecting a 0.5% increase at this point in time in the state aid, or about 41,000 and change. Local receipts is a good news story for the town of Foxborough. Projecting at this point in time about a $687,000 or 10% increase in local receipts. And again, that comprises about 27% of our increase. Local receipts is comprised of over 50 different line items. There are many different items that make it up, from fines, fees, permits, excise taxes, etc. But the increase here within those 50 lines is driven primarily by very positive increasing revenue trends in hotel, meals, and motor vehicle excise taxes, pilot payments, payment in lieu of taxes, from stadium events, as well as building permits, which coincides with the growth that we're expecting in new growth taxes. So those are the primary drivers. Those are the big numbers that are driving the increase in local receipts. We're also the recommendation here is to commit an increasing level to our OPEB, or retiree health insurance benefits, of $100,000. This year we've committed $500,000. If you recall, the plan is to continue to increase our funding to this. So the recommendation is $600,000 for FY15, and that is to come out of the recommended to come out of the meals tax, as is the policy of the board. If you'll recall, local receipts is where we generate the primary free cash recharge for the town. Most communities do not budget every single penny that they collect. They budget to spend less than their revenues in order to create the free cash. If you don't do that, then you won't create the free cash that we do, which gives us sort of the cushion and the flexibility. And so it's a targeted free cash reserve. And from local receipts, we typically target somewhere between 1.5 and 1.6 million. So this year, my recommendation is we target about 1.6 million. Given the increase, the solid increases that we're seeing here in local receipts. And to explain how that factors in here, just to break it down to the the basic components. At this point, I'm estimating all local receipts, all those 50 items, to come in at about $9.4 million for next year. And then when you back off the estimated meals tax, which is about estimated to be about $8.49 million, I'm sorry, I use my readers now, about $869,000 for FY15, leaves us with a net $8.49 million in net local receipts that are available for general fund budgets. And then from there, if you subtract the $1.6 million that we would keep, we would target for free cash recharge for reserve, that leaves you with $6.89 million to go towards the general fund budgets, which again is a $687,000 increase from the current year. And then when you add on the $600,000 for OPEB, we're actually committing just under $7.5 million from local receipts towards next year's budget. So that's how that number is generated. And other available funds, it's relatively flat. Within that, we've got free cash, ambulance receipts, overlay surplus, and enterprise overhead. So on the free cash, it's a slightly complicated story, but see if I can make it simple. We are currently on a declining commitment trend of free cash towards the operating budget, and then typically when we're doing that, we're increasing our funding towards the capital budget, and I think our capital budgets have reflected that. And we're typically doing that in what I like to call the good times, and right now are the good times. We're coming out of the the down economy. So what we have done, our history in this space here of commitment of free cash to the operating budget is in the good times to come down on a reliance on free cash and for operating and increase it on capital. So this past, in the year that we're in right now, we had initially targeted to commit $1.5 million from free cash. But with our ability to balance the budget this year without using all of the resources that we had available to us, where it was about $475,000. Where we actually pulled that back was in free cash, because we still levied to the limit and we kept the free cash back. So in essence, we're now my recommendation is to target $1.3 million in free cash. Bring it down. And what we try to do is bring it down as much as we can until the economy turns again, and then we've built up sufficient reserve where we haven't been relying on free cash, so we can maintain operating service levels, and then we toggle back on capital. That's the model that we've been following. So my recommendation is to bring it back again to $1.3 million for this year. And so that has that actually had, because of the way we toggled back, that actually has a positive increase on the free cash commitment, because we actually used less last year. Ambulance receipts is trending up again, continues to trend up. They continue to trend strong, so we continue to add to ambulance receipts commitment to the general fund on an increasing level, an extra $23,000 next year from that. It's a reduction from overlay surplus, because the only reason we tapped overlay surplus for operating this year was to fund the triennial revaluation. One-time event. We fund that $120,000 over 2 years from the same account, from the same department that does the work. So we will not ask for overlay surplus money to do the reval work next year, because we won't need it. And then there's projecting at this point a $94,000 reduction from the enterprise overhead allocation. As you know, we charge the enterprise accounts for overhead, insurances, et cetera, from the general fund. And so the primary reason for the reduction, though, is that we no longer will have a solid waste enterprise account working, where we used to pay for all of our, the trash hauling, et cetera. And so we're not in that business anymore. There's no more revenue coming in anymore there. So therefore, there's no overhead cost to allocate to the solid waste enterprise. So in essence, after this year, the enterprise account will be balanced out to about zero. And then there's one assumed credit in here that also reduces the overhead allocation. And I think this will probably evolve as the budget cycle evolves, and that has to do with the funding plan that we had for the DPW administrative offices, which we all know, that was not brought forward in the November town meeting. But my understanding is that that's going to come back again. At the expectation is that the pricing that we were, initially targeting, and the general fund has a responsibility, given that we have highway department employees who would occupy space, so the general fund has to, fund their share, and the way we had concocted the funding was as a credit to the water enterprise account on their overhead allocation on a 5-year declining basis. So I still factored that credit in here. If it doesn't happen, obviously, there'll be no credit, and there'd be about another $60,000, available in the overhead allocation. But I didn't want to take that out yet. We'll wait and see what happens with that project, and ultimately it'll be a policy decision of the board to support that or not. So those are the revenue highlights that get us to just over $2.5 million increase in revenue, and then
Randy?
Yes.
Excuse me, could I
Sure.
just ask you to add a little color to that accounting?
Sure.
So two questions. First, the 4.3% increase, your comments on your perspective on that as it relates to the town in general, and even though I've been doing this for a few years, I can't remember how that compares to past years. So just a comment on that. And also,
Sure.
any specific, especially noteworthy numbers here you want to talk about, or is this, pretty in line with past?
No, this is actually a good news at this point in time. Even last year and the year before, I do not recall at this juncture with the preliminary estimate of revenue, us reporting a scenario where we were talking about this kind of growth, and then on the next page you'll see we net down the impact of the increases in the fixed costs to be in positive territory here of close to 1.9 million. We've been talking about we're looking to make up $750,000 or $1 million or $500,000 over the budgeting process. Right, I think we all do. So this is actually very good news at this point, and it's the continued dividends from all of so many different initiatives that went into this across town, school. These are the continuing dividends that are paying off here. So this is it's a relatively new phenomenon from the last. This will now be the third budget cycle that we're starting to see this, but the numbers are actually starting to get a little larger because we're at the beginning stages of the budget process. So I would imagine with the estimates that I have on fixed costs, I'm hoping for some upsides. I try not to come up with these forecasts where we get some terrible negative surprises, because that puts us in a tough position to react to when we get further down in the process. I try to set us up where we can have positive surprises, so we can balance the budget and meet whatever the policy objectives are of the the school committee and the Board of Selectmen. So the only thing of note here that I would point out, Bruce, is that again the local receipts continued to be very strong. I think the town certainly made the right moves by increasing the hotel excise tax. The meals excise tax is paying for some big liability that we know of, OPEB, and also providing some good funding for roads, which hopefully we're all starting to see some improvements there. And then the only other one that I would say I want to see some of the indication of more of the indication of this to be very confident is the new tax growth. I mean, we've certainly seen new tax growth higher than 800,000 before, but there are some significant new entrants, commercial entrants into the town that are looking that they're going to contribute to this, according to the building commissioner. So I feel good about where we are.
That's very helpful, I think, having your commentary on that.
Sure, thank you.
I had a similar question
Sure.
too, just in terms of that estimated new tax growth. How does that compare to last year?
Last year, right now we're still in new growth or growth certification mode right now. We're expecting any day to hear from the Department of Revenue on the values that have been certified, so we can get the the tax bills, out with the actual values in January. We were targeting just over $500,000, for this year. Last year, I think was also just over $500,000. So, as I said, there's an increased pattern here, both on the commercial and the residential side, that's sustained. And there are, specific projects on the commercial side that are actually, leading to this, that, add a big number to this as well.
Randy, is our taxes still below the levy limit max?
No, we continue to tax to the levy limit every year, the 2.5%.
Why did I think we didn't tax to the max a few years ago?
Good question. I think it's all in the semantics of the language that's used to describe, our position. We had been in a position the last 2 years, the fiscal year they're in now and last fiscal year, to possibly not levy to the limit by 400 to 2 years ago to 475,000 in the current year. And all of those involved in the process here, the board, school committee, AdCom, we all collectively agreed to do that, to still tax the levy limit, but to use that identified revenue that resulted to go towards needed one-time costs, to a boost into the capital program, or to increase our stabilization reserves to meet requirements or meet standards that rating agencies would see as a positive strength to maintain our credit rating, so we could borrow it at reduced rates. So we used those monies for one-time items, because I know when everybody focuses on the operating budget, which is what we're talking about here, and we talk about revenues in good shape, it's not the only area of government that needs funds. Our capital program needs funds. Our long-term liabilities needs funds. So there's always a need, certainly in any municipality, for these funds. And one way to find the funds is if you can balance your budget, in essence, under the levy limit, and then you can use your one-time funds like the free cash that you put towards it and rededicate them to these other needy areas. It's good practice.
Okay.
Last year, we put money into stabilization to keep us above the 5% that the rating agencies.
Right.
Doing that again this year?
I'm not recommending it this year, because we've achieved that plateau at this point. And that's actually a policy matter that I want to, now that we've achieved the 5% for the current budget and for the next budget, it's a policy matter that I'd like to revisit with the board about, I'd like to firm up the policy on our stabilization funds, and it's something that, we'll be coming back to the board on. And just briefly, the reason is that when we put money into into the general stabilization fund now, it's sort of different rules have evolved over the last few years. Anytime you go to take monies out of that fund now, it's a reporting incident to the financial community. Whether it's for good reason or not, you're borrowing against it and you're going to put it back, which, going back many years ago, the town had done that. Don't put the interest in and use that for a needy item, or, geez, we'll borrow a couple $100,000 and we'll put it. If you make any draw against the general stabilization account now, it's a reporting item. It's a flag, good or bad, and you get all the attention. So I wanted to review maybe if we continue to find ourselves in a position to put funds into stabilization, maybe we think about capital stabilization, which is not a reporting item. So to think about that, and we can combine those two funds to report, here's our stabilization balances. So though if we put it into capital stabilization, it will come out. So it's just something to be mindful of. So I wanted to come back at a later point to discuss that before we make any other for the big commitments to that fund.
Randy, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Just stepping back, looking at the bigger picture a little bit. This
Yep.
started back in October when there was a directive to go level service versus level funding. And then between now and May town meeting, we've got 17 bullet steps between the advisory committee, the school committee, the selectmen, separate and together.
Right.
As you know, we're in the process of looking and interviewing for a town manager.
Mhm.
Can we put if all goes well, November, December, we'll be in that, so hopefully January, we've got a new town manager. Could we put a line item in there that the town manager sits with yourself, Bob Cutler, the chairman of the Selectmen, School Committee, Advisory Committee, and maybe Ms. Spinelli, to kind of give them an overview of all of this?
Absolutely.
So I remember when Kevin came in, he kind of got thrown into the mix, going to Advisory Committee, saying stuff without the full picture.
Sure.
And I think that would be a world of difference for the remaining 14 steps.
I would look forward to that.
And just thank you for putting this together. I think I think most of the people in this room here have been looking at the budgets for at least 3, 4, 5 years. The items that come and go in the middle of this, do we tweak the residential versus commercial tax rate, all that stuff? 5-year projection, that all falls into here and kind of comes and goes. But I think the general trend that we've been all working towards is showing here, with the work that we've done for the insurance and the departments. We went through the low, now we're going through the high. So I don't see anything from my experience that jumps out that's out of whack. And correct, you guys have been working on this as well. To say, steer in a different direction between now and May.
Right, yeah, and I'm glad you're pointing to the timelines. I wasn't going to cover those, but I was just going to suggest that everybody on these boards and committees, please do take a look at them. I think I've distributed them to most, maybe not all, just so we can get agreement on, are these the steps, are there additional steps? And then as well for the advisory committee, I put the traditional, proposed schedule of advisory committee meetings. So if I could, hear back at some point that that's a good schedule, I can let the department heads know. But open to. I think in working with the superintendent and school business manager, we specifically discussed, and I think Debbie was was firm that this is a step that we should definitely keep, because there was discussion, is this a meaningful session or not? So it's definitely, the steps are, this is it's a proposed process to go through, and there are different approach to it, wide open to it.
Jeannie was waiting.
Yeah, you report here that you would like to increase the OPEB according to your schedule, but you didn't mention anything about the money from the meals tax to be used for roads.
Right, that's a capital item. So that the focus here is on the operating budget.
Okay.
So that would be a proposal that probably the DPW director would put forward. I keep him in the loop on funds that are available from this account, and with the current projection that probably for next year there'd be another 290,000 that could potentially go to roads beyond that. I believe, and Roger will correct me tomorrow if not, I believe that the funding that we provided this year, along with the Chapter 90 commitment from the state, was a sufficient number for them to work with, to keep them pretty busy this year. Don't know if they could absorb more funding than the level that we're currently providing, which would be talking about anniversarying what we did this year for meals tax for next year. But I believe, as it was mentioned, one of your prior meetings, it was pointed out that there is over $600,000 in meals tax funds that have built up, and it's available. It's going nowhere else other than whatever gets proposed from this table to go to town meeting to appropriate. So there's certainly funds there that could either go to OPEB, or more funding for roads, even beyond what Roger may recommend for meals tax.
When do the Chapter 90 funds come to the town, and does Roger begin the road repairs once he gets the Chapter 90 money?
No, it's a reimbursement program, so we have to spend the funds before we receive them, and so he can start right away. Once the season starts, there's nothing stopping them from going forward other than making sure we have our regional pricing agreements in place, so we can purchase whatever it is that we purchase, the raw materials. So Roger's aware of that, and then he makes submissions for reimbursement. As the year goes on, he's got something substantial to be reimbursed for.
Because it would be nice to tap into that extra money that we have, to do the roads, because, people expected it to be used for road work. And although there is a program to do the roads, if we can tap into that money and maybe accelerate the program a little
Talking
bit,
the 600 plus thousand. Yeah, and that's a decision I'll leave to the board, the policymakers to debate.
That has to be appropriated at town meeting.
Yes, anything, these are monies that ultimately flow into free cash and ultimately have to be appropriated.
Yeah. Also, the money that we had been talking about in that warrant article for the town hall, that was from the stabilization fund?
Capital stabilization.
The capital stabilization fund, yes.
Okay.
Two different ones, right?
Yeah, okay. Where is that money now, and do we still have, because I'm sure something in the spring is going to come up for town meeting to do something with town hall. Something has to be done.
Still there, hasn't moved, can't move, it has to be appropriated.
Okay, so and that would still be a 2/3 vote, or?
Because it's in because it's in a stabilization count, all votes in and out of stabilization are 2/3 votes, because it's, they're typically larger sums of money, and that's the threshold that the state set on those.
Okay, but can that money come from another account?
Sure, could have come from free cash, 50/50 vote.
It wouldn't require the 2/3?
Yeah, could come from free cash, 50/50 vote.
And who would determine that when a warrant article is?
I would say it's a policy decision.
Okay.
It has to do, would probably discuss how does that affect the financial, picture? Is it, just half a dozen of one, six of the other sort of thing? So that would indeed be a policy matter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Lorraine, anything else?
Just a question on the increase, 7% premium increase assumed. Is that higher than typical?
Well, we've just gone through 2 cycles of modifying the health plans. I'll just call it what it is. The cost shifting, for the town to employees. So the town has already received the benefit of the premium reductions as a result of that. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with Maya just to try to get a bead on where things are headed. Maya's our health carrier. And I asked the question, it's early, they don't set their rates until January, February of next year. But I was told that, and you can't hold them to this until they do their actuarial work on our health trend, but it shouldn't exceed this. So I'm hopeful that it would be less than 7%. Obviously, we've been looking at double-digit increases prior to going to Maya. Every 1 point, reduction, 7% to 6%, is about a $60,000, savings on the town side. So I'm hopeful it'll be less, but I try not to put forward these forecasts and then especially on the big numbers here and miss it big time.
Is there going to be a lot more dialogue? Just I need to open a public meeting.
Sure. I was just going to hit the fixed cost briefly and
open the meeting, and then
yeah, we'll open the meeting. Maybe John, do you need the public notice? It's right here. Maybe you don't have it in front of you.
It's 9:30. The Board of Selectmen, acting as a local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Section 183A, and Chapter 136, Section 4, the Town of Foxborough Revised General Bylaws, Article 5, Section 6, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, November 12th, 2013, beginning at 9:30 in the Foxborough High School Media Center, 120 South Street, to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the 2013 MIAA High School Super Bowls. All events are proposed for Gillette Stadium. All applications for these events are on file at the Office of the Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend. This was published on October 24th and October 31st.
Thank you, John. Okay, Randy,
I'll be brief.
Summarize?
Just on the fixed costs, at this point, projecting a $653,000 increase on the fixed costs, which nets down from the revenue. As we talked about the OPEB, $100,000 increase. Lorraine just mentioned the 7% projected increase on health insurance, which is about $429,000. At this point, trend on pension assessment, which we don't really see until about January, February, about 5.2%, $135,000, $44,000 for other workers' comp general insurance increases. Southeastern Regional, I think, is at their assessment as at a low due to enrollment. So superintendent there told me to expect it to go up, as they expect we'll probably see enrollment go up about 23,000. And then as we amortize our debt service as part of fixed costs is declining by about 78,000 for next year. So, in summary, about $45,100,000 estimated to be available for general fund budgets, $2.53 million revenue increase, $650,000 increase in fixed costs, netting to $1.87 million remaining increase for general fund budgets. I just wanted to make 2 points. Obviously, this doesn't include any assumptions on the town hall building project, and I'm not asking to get into that at this point. I just wanted the board, school committee, advisory committee to be aware that the amount within these increased revenues that my plan was looking to sort of preserve in order to handle the debt service going forward was about $382,000 of this number. And so if and this is the policy matter discussion, for another date. So if that were to be something that we were, going to try to, consider, hold some room available to do something on an included basis versus on an excluded basis, then that would net down to about $1.5 million in increased available, or 3.45% increase. And the next update on this will be after all the budget requests have been received. December 18th is our distribution date to all members here. And I think it's probably appropriate for the town manager to just touch upon the budgetary guideline that we had already discussed with the board a couple weeks ago.
Randy and I had an opportunity to meet with Bill and Debbie about this, and we've mentioned that the directive from me to the non-school departments will be that it'll be a level services budget based on the fact that we're in transition with the town manager, and I didn't think it appropriate to, hand him a higher budget level. So that's the approach that Ray and I thought best made, and that's going to be the directive department heads at a department head meeting on Thursday. We've mentioned it to the board here before. And so we just wanted to bring that up again publicly so everybody's aware of that, and that's where we're going to head from our perspective.
Okay, great. Anything else? Thank you, Randy. As usual, I love hearing when you state all the numbers, because it's a lot more clear when you say it than when you read it. And it's an attribute to what you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Looking forward to another great budget season.
Okay,
Thanks, Randy. Thank you all.
Mark, I have one quick comment related. Mr. DeVellis and Mr. Cutler both talked about the importance of interacting with the superintendent, with the new town manager in respect to the budget. It came to my attention that the superintendent may not be a member of the town manager search committee.
We can't talk about that right now. This has got nothing to do with this. I can't be going off to a different subject. We're on the meeting. I know where you're going. It's got nothing to do with what's on this agenda. I can't openly discuss that right now. If you'd like, I can put it on the next meeting.
I'd respectfully request the superintendent be considered for that search committee.
Could you add that to the next agenda item for a quick discussion? I appreciate it, but I can't go off track. Okay?
Well, can I suggest, we have an item at 9:45 that says Charter for Town Manager Screening Committee.
Okay.
Is that apples and oranges?
I would think that fits in fine.
Want to stick around to 9:45? I don't know what time, but that is an item that we're going to discuss on the agenda, rather than putting it on for a different...
No, that's a charter, not the composition of, right?
Yeah.
I think I've made my point.
I'd just like to ask the other members of the committee if they have any other questions for Randy.
As I said, has anybody got anything else to add? And I saw no hands.
Okay. That being said, then we'll adjourn our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjourning? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And thank you to Randy and Bob for our continued meetings about budget. It's been great.
Thank you.
Okay. Could anybody from the MII come up forward, please?
What's the insurance company?
I'll put it on the next agenda, it's, you know, a good time. Gentlemen, thank you for coming, thank you for your patience, we're just a few minutes late, and we'll start by introducing yourselves to the board and making your statements.
I'm Phil Buttafuoco. I represent Gillette Stadium in securing the license for the MIA championship games for this year. This year's championship or event will include 6 statewide championships, so it's a new format for the MIA. We're certainly very excited to conduct the event again. We'll have somewhere in the neighborhood of 18,000 people throughout the day. Roughly 3,000 people per game based on history. There is no tailgating for the event. The parking lots would open at 8 a.m. First game scheduled for 9 a.m. Last game scheduled to kick at 8 p.m. with a conclusion roughly at 9:30 at night. It is a flow event where the people basically come and go throughout the day to support their respective teams. We've adjusted some of the operations this year, as reflected in the Stadium Advisory Committee's report to you. We've chatted with Chief Hatfield and Chief O'Leary, and I know they've submitted their reports as well. So, Richard.
I'm Richard Pearson, Associate Executive Director of the MIAA. I was coming here today to ask you about any discussion about the surcharge that may be on the table today, but I wasn't sure if that was an agenda item. So I was here to respond to that and speak to that if that was up for discussion for today.
I'm Mike Ashby. I'm the Vice Chairperson of the Stadium Advisory Committee. We have made our complete review of the application and have forwarded a positive recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open it up to the board. John?
Oh, this is an event that's been happening, how many years, Richard?
This will be the 7th year.
7th year, and it's, there's never any issues. I mean, I have no problem with the event. I see no reason to not license it.
All right.
I have no problem with it. I'm all set.
Jenny?
Yeah, the event itself, I have no problem licensing the event itself.
James?
Yeah, no, I'm happy for the event actually came back. Correct me if I'm wrong, there was when you have a Super Bowl event, is it 1, 2, 3 years and then it moves to someplace else, or each year determines where it goes? So in other words, for next year, do we know where it's going to go?
I don't think it's a definite next year. Each year we've had a discussion, and the craft organization and the stadium have been very responsive to us to bring this to the stadium as the showcase in the end of our football season. In particular, this year it's even more profound because it's a new football tournament that involves roughly 150 schools as opposed to 74, and it will culminate in the first time ever of 6 state championships. Even back as early as 1972, there was still Eastern and Central, or Eastern and Western. So this will be the first time in the history of the state football tournament that there will be 6 state championships crowned at the stadium.
Yep, and as I said, the people reviewing it, police and fire, saw no problems, and I think in the past we haven't. But I want to say special recognition to the advisory group that looks at it. You did a very in-depth report, and I know you're all volunteers, so thank you
There's for a doing change this year that the seating is only on one side of the stadium. And one of the questions we raised was how do you separate the folks, just in case. And the way the tickets are being sold by game, that one opponent will be on one end and the other opponent will be on the other end. When they do buy a ticket, they're entitled to attend all 6 games, but past history has been
Cold.
it's cold, and when there's a winner, they leave. When there's a loser, they leave.
1
and
o'clock
a
in the
new group
morning.
comes in.
No. I guess you have to pick the bride side, the groom side, I guess.
I can also assure you, from the standpoint of what we do on the school side and on the MIA side, we have an extensive procedure to involve chaperones, and all the supports necessary to control the school environment. We have a meeting prior to the game where all the chaperones that are and the athletic directors and principals all meet then to be dispersed into the stands with jerseys and identification to help support the students to be productive and positive and add to the sportsmanship of the event. So I'm sure we're very comfortable on one side of the stadium, whatever it might be, in controlling the crowds.
Hopefully the sunny side.
That would be nice.
And
no snow.
And there's no alcohol inside or outside tailgating?
No.
Anywhere?
Anything else you need to ask the board tonight?
My only question goes back to what I asked first, is when a consideration or discussion of a surcharge request, to alter the surcharge amount, if that would be here or if that would have to be put on a future agenda.
Different agenda item?
Yeah, it was not part of the...
It wasn't part?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, the licensing was.
Just the license.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a separate issue between the MIAA and the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, we'll deal with that another day then. Okay, it's a public hearing. Anybody left? Wishing to be heard? Seeing none, John?
Okay, I move that we,
Close public.
I move that we close the public hearing first.
Second.
Discussion? James?
Before, I just want to make sure, if we're going to put the discussion off to a different time, I'm looking for the date of the Super Bowl.
It's 12/7, it's on the
Pearl
application.
Harbor Day.
We would respectfully request to do it the next meeting if you could fit it into your agenda, which would be prior to the game
When's our
taking
next meeting,
place.
Bob?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Barely enough time.
I could discuss it tonight too, but I...
No, it's on the agenda. We don't
Procedural-wise,
want to
it's-
get in the...
That's what I had suspected.
So we'll just, today's 26th, right? 26th, yeah, that gives you time. Okay, go to the 26th.
Okay.
So, okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now the next motion, Lorraine? You're the motion machine tonight, the both of you.
Want me to do it?
John?
I move that the Board of Selectmen license the 2013 MIAA High School Super Bowls to be held at Gillette Stadium on 12/7/2013.
Second. Oops.
Second by James. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have
It's
you
going to be a
on board
wonderful
again.
event. Very excited. Thank you.
Okay, the last two items we have, Charter for Town Manager Search Committee. Lorraine, you've got
This-
that under your belt here.
Yep. This will be
Yep.
a quick one.
Because we gotta vacate for the custodian.
Okay, so right now, we're at a point where the community profile has been posted on our website, on the MMA website, and is in the ICMA website. Hopefully, there are applications pouring in, and the next step is really for us to approve a charge of the Town Manager Screening Committee. And actually, this says appointment and charge here. So I have not listed the appointees here, but they are the ones that we had approved initially. Bob, since this says...
Yeah, that says that, but the agenda says nothing.
The agenda doesn't say it, so we should still wait?
I don't want to, I'm up
Okay.
floating that rule.
All right, so basically, what this says is that we are appointing a screening committee consisting of the following members. The committee shall work collaboratively with the staff of the Collins Center for Public Management at UMass Boston along the lines described in the scope of services that we received. The screening committee shall recommend approximately 3 to 5 candidates to the Board of Selectmen as finalists for the position of town manager. Recommendations shall be unranked, and finalists should be fully vetted before the screening committee makes its recommendation. In carrying out its work, the screening committee will utilize the profile approved by the Board of Selectmen to guide its work, as well as the professional advice of the Collins Center staff. To the extent permitted by law, the screening committee shall maintain the names and any information about candidates in strict confidence until it votes its recommendations. And lastly, it's the intention of the Board of Selectmen for the screening committee to function as a governmental body, as that term is defined in the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law. Citizens designated to be members of the committee should make arrangements to be officially enrolled at town clerk's office. So if this charge is agreeable, we need to take a vote on this. I'll list the appointees as they stand now, and then we can have a discussion at our next meeting if we want to add to that list.
Why don't we take it under advisement And do both
Well-
at the next meeting.
I just had one question, if I could.
Sure.
Given that this committee is going to meet, and it's subject to open meeting laws, how do they meet? Do they always meet in executive session?
Well, actually, I was hoping to schedule their first meeting
Is that how
just
they
for
work?
introductory purposes with the Collins Institute next Wednesday, the 20th. I have Collins Institute tentatively on standby there. So I was hoping that we could approve this tonight, have that introductory meeting, which would be in public because there's no discussion of any applicants at that time. And it's really to introduce the charge to the committee, introduce them to the consultants, and then also have them work out a schedule that, meets their needs based on.
Okay, so it's time.
It's timing, really, yeah.
Does anybody want to add to this charge at all, or change it at all? Everybody's amendable? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I move that we accept the Town Manager Screening Committee appointment and charge as written.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
John, to your point, anything that would involve vetting the candidates would require it to be an executive session. So they would need to open the meeting in public session, go into executive session, as, this board does.
Yeah, I just want to know the mechanics of it. I understand why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll add to this discussion again, appointment and application, charter for the Town Manager Search Committee for the next meeting. How's the next meeting looking, Bob? Is it really like basted, a lot of, because we're just really getting through a lot of stuff lately, so.
Yeah, no, I think we're in pretty good shape.
So we'll have all these, let's try and tone it down a little bit, and hopefully there's no more liquor license violations between now and then.
Okay.
So, all right.
Thank you.
All right. Mom, the next meeting, we will have the outside meeting, because I don't think it's appropriate we have that tonight. I know I put it off the last 2 meetings just of time, but I think we're gonna dive into that next time we have a meeting. We'll have more time to discuss it instead of 5 minutes. I wanted to have a good discussion on this. 5 minutes is not gonna do it. Okay?
I could take up 5 minutes on the topic, so
Yeah,
we'll do it another
exactly.
time.
So,
What topic are you talking about?
on outside meetings,
Okay.
the last one. That's on your agenda, on the bottom. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
We have signatures.
Yeah, let's get them rocking.